Chapter 11:51. Lu Hong laughed, then looked at Zhang Rang and said, "Go and get the battle report. Go, bring me the battle report. I want to see where the West Continent is and how big it is." "Yes, Your Majesty." Zhang Rang hurriedly bowed and said. After that, he went to the messenger and took the battle report. Then, he held it with both hands and returned to Lu Hong's side. After Lu Hong received the battle report from Zhang Rang, he couldn't wait to open it and read it. After 10 minutes, Lu Hong slapped the table in front of him and said with a big laugh, "Great! Good, good. My good son-in-law is indeed worthy of the name of the cornerstone of the great Han dynasty. Ha ha! Congratulations, Your Majesty. Congratulations, Your Majesty." When Zhang Rang heard this, he bowed with a smile. Lu Hong looked at Zhang Rang with emotion and said, "All of this is thanks to you. All of this is thanks to Father Rang's advice. Without Father Rang, how could I have such a good son-in-law? Your Majesty, this is also because of Yi Yu of Gojoseon's loyalty. If Yi Yu of Gojoseon wasn't loyal, this servant wouldn't have been able to do it no matter how capable I am," Zhang Rang said with a flattering smile and bowed after hearing Lu Hong's emotional words. When Lu Hong heard this, he nodded in agreement and then said, "That's right. That is indeed the case. However, we cannot ignore the merit of letting Father have it. How about this? Let Father go to our treasury and choose something as a reward for letting Father have it." As soon as Lu Hong finished speaking, Zhang Rang hurriedly bowed and said, "Your Majesty, I can't accept this. It is this servant's duty to work for Your Majesty. If Your Majesty insists on rewarding this servant, then this servant can only thank Your Majesty with my death." Zhang Rang knew better than anyone how greedy Lu Hong was. Asking him to go to Lu Hong's treasury to take something was not a reward, but a death wish. Of course, Lu Hong wanted to reward Zhang Rang not because he disliked Zhang Rang or wanted to kill Zhang Rang, but because Lu Hong really wanted to reward Zhang Rang. However, if Zhang Rang accepted this reward, then Lu Hong would most likely feel disgusted. It was because Zhang Rang knew this very well that he didn't hesitate to refuse the reward. Lu Hong was slightly stunned when he heard this, then patted Zhang Rang's shoulder with emotion. "Father Rang, your loyalty is unparalleled in the world. Many thanks for Your Majesty's favor, but this servant is ashamed to accept it, ashamed to accept it." Zhang Rang's face lit up with joy, and he hastily bowed. "If I say you are, then you are. Who dares to object?" Lu Hong roared when he heard this. After he finished speaking, he glanced at the court officials. When the civil and military officials saw this, their expressions changed, but they quickly regained their composure. They then bowed to Lu Hong and said, "Lu Hong, Your Majesty is wise." When Lu Hong heard this, he nodded his head in satisfaction. Beside him, Zhang Rang proudly glanced at the civil and military officials before regaining his composure. In the past, the court officials had seized the opportunity to fight Zhang Rang to the death. But now almost no one did so. Why? The reason was simple. The Prince Yu of Han, Yi Chun, was the matchmaker for Zhang Rang. He was also the main backer of the eunuchs. This was what Zhang Rang was thinking, and it was also the reason for his smugness just now. Unfortunately, what Zhang Rang didn't know was that the people on his side he thought of was merely a misconception given to him by Yi Chun. The reason why the civil and military officials hadn't dissed Zhang Rang recently was because Yi Chun, the Ghost King of the Great Han Empire, had been constantly making great contributions. The civil and military officials were all focused on that. How would they have the time to bother with Zhang Rang? In the governor's mansion of the Reincarnation Immortal City, above the Romoro sect. After sorting out the rewards, Yi Chun looked straight at the Reincarnation Immortal City army and shouted, "Send out the troops. Send out your troops. America, add your strength." "Yes, my lord." Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, Li Yuanba, and the other generals heard Yi Chun's voice transmission and bowed to the Reincarnation Immortal City in the sky. After hearing his subordinate's response, Yi Chun waved his right hand, and dozens of distorted spaces appeared in Romoro City. Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, Li Yuanba, and the other generals saw this and shouted in unison, "Let's go!" As soon as the generals finished their words, the army of the reincarnation immortal city started to move and headed towards the distorted space. In the distance, the Eastern players were stunned when they saw the reincarnation immortal city army start moving again. It's still nighttime. Is Yi Yu of Gojoseon tempted again? He should be retreating back to the city. I don't think so. The murderous intent above the reincarnation immortal city army hasn't dissipated. If they are returning to the city, the murderous intent will dissipate very quickly. How do you know? Damn, how can I not know? I have followed Yi Yu of Gojoseon to many countries. Bulsh asterisk T, you must have followed him to many countries. Cough, cough, that's not important. What's important is that I have seen the reincarnation immortal city army in battle many times. Therefore, my judgment is definitely correct. Now, it seems like only America is left, right? Isn't there still Africa? Bulsh asterisk T, Africa doesn't have a game area. Although I don't know the reason, this news is definitely true. If that's the case, then Africa is Yi Chen's last target. We are finally going to attack Africa. I have been waiting for a long time. Me too. Although I want to go, I plan to stay in the Western continent and kill the players here to gain more experience. I choose to go to Africa. Just as the Eastern players behind Yi Chen were discussing the Reincarnation Immortal City Army's movements, the Reincarnation Immortal City Army gradually disappeared without trace. Just as the Reincarnation Immortal City Army disappeared, the Reincarnation Immortal Island, floating in the sky, flew into a distorted space and disappeared. At the border of Africa, the sky suddenly distorted. Then, a huge island that covered the sky flew out and appeared here. The island flying in the sky was none other than Yi Chen's Reincarnation Immortal Island. Reincarnation Immortal City, Castellan's Mansion. Yi Chen, who had just arrived at the border of Africa, instantly released his powerful divine sense. In the next second, Yi Chen couldn't help but be stunned. F*CK. The players of Africa have learned their lesson. They are actually not setting up a defense line at the border. So be it. This way, we can avoid another battle and increase the time it takes to destroy Africa. Thinking of this, Yi Chen looked directly at the border of Africa. The Reincarnation Immortal City Army was already in formation and waiting for orders. He shouted, "Attack! Sadr City!" "Yes, my lord." Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, Li Yuanba, Gan Ning, and the other generals heard this and bowed loudly in the direction of the Reincarnation Immortal Island. With that, the generals led the Reincarnation Immortal City Army toward the huge city of Sadr City at the border of Africa. At the same time, a large number of Eastern players who had just arrived at the Western continent received news that Yi Chen had begun to attack Africa. Soon, they were divided into two groups. One group prepared to kill the Western continent players in the Western continent like monsters, while the other group prepared to go to Africa and continue to reap benefits. In the Luo Sect's headquarters in Peanut Shield City, Africa, America's game area, Pope Joseph was sitting on the holy throne with his eyes closed. Next to him was a young and beautiful Asian woman. If Yi Chen were here, he would definitely recognize this Eastern girl. She was Qin Yin of the Gongsun clan. Back then, Qin Yin wanted to use Yi Chen to cultivate the sage emotionless technique. Not only was she rejected by Yi Chen, but she also lost her thunder origin and was hunted down by Yi Chen. She used the greater teleportation jade scroll and fled to the Africa's game area. After being tortured in all kinds of ways, her luck changed and she became acquainted with Pope Joseph. It could be said that Yi Chen was the person Qin Yin hated the most. And now, Qin Yin, who hated Yi Chen so much, had become Pope Joseph's woman. Pope Joseph was already 96 years old this year. He was originally a player, but due to a coincidence, he became the Pope. Because of his identity as the Pope, he reached the saint level much more easily than other players. Moreover, he had countless powerful items in his hands. In terms of strength, he was definitely the strongest player in the newbie area other than Yichun. Of course, if Yichun was included, Pope Joseph could only be second. Opposite the Pope stood a dark-skinned, middle-aged man. He was the leader of the players in the Kingdom of Magnesia after the fall of the meteor. After going through all kinds of hardships, he was finally chosen as the leader of the players. Of course, although he was called the leader, he was actually just a puppet. This was because there was only one person in charge of Africa, and that was Pope Joseph. However, Africa was a democratic country. After the real world was relatively stable, a president was elected in the game world. If it were in the past, the leader of the players in Africa, who was the so-called president, would not come to the Luo sect. But it was different now. Yichin's Samsara City army had arrived in the Americas. He had to come. There was no other way. Yichin was too cruel. Not only did he not let anyone go, but he also killed the players as if they were monsters, and he killed them back and forth. If that was all, the Eastern players would also take advantage of the situation and continue to kill. If this continued, all the players in Africa would drop to the lowest level. After that, they would have to face the monsters in the real world with their weakest strength. What would the result be? Without a doubt, it would be death. No one wanted to die. Otherwise, he would not have come here to look for his last hope, Pope Joseph. Your Holiness, we have no other choice. Yichun has destroyed the West Continent, and now his army has arrived in the Americas. With our strength, we have no chance of winning. That's why I'm here today, to beg your Holiness to help us. Otherwise, the whole world will be occupied by Yichun, and the people of God will be killed by Yichun. Please, your Holiness, save us. Ahem. Pope Joseph coughed softly, looked at the leader of the players in front of him calmly, and said calmly, "Don't be impatient. Calm down. Although Yichun is powerful, he's nothing in front of the Luo sect." The leader of the players in Africa heaved a sigh of relief when he heard this. If Pope Joseph was willing to help, then Africa could still be saved. Otherwise, it would be useless even if all the players in Africa fought Yichin's Samsara Immortal City army. Chapter 1152. The largest border city of the Magnesium Nation, Sadr City. Early in the morning, the fog was thick and visibility was very low. The general of Sadir City, General Milton, was currently anxiously observing the situation outside the city. Even the slightest movement would cause his tense nerves to twitch. In order to guard against Yichin's army, Sadr City had gathered 100 million natives and a large number of players to defend the city. Everyone knew that this was a battle of life and death. Everyone in America was united. Regardless of whether they were natives or players, they were unreservedly united. They did not want to become slaves of a conquered country, nor did they want to become the second Western continent. Therefore, when Yichun destroyed the Western continent, everyone put aside their usual grudges and actively prepared for battle. Regardless of whether they were natives or players, they took out all their resources to participate in this battle. This was also why Sadr City was able to gather 100 million soldiers in such a short period of time. The morning fog gradually dissipated, and the defenders on the city walls could gradually see the scene in the distance. At this moment, the dull rumbling of the earth suddenly came from the distance, and it became louder and louder. Rumble, rumble. On the city walls, an American soldier standing at the lookout point suddenly pointed into the distance and shouted, "General, there's a situation." General Milton immediately looked into the distance when he heard the soldiers shout. He had no choice but to look. No matter how he looked at it, the dull rumbling of the earth was the sound that would only appear when thousands of soldiers and horses were galloping. Following General Milton's gaze, an army wearing bright silver armor appeared in his line of sight. Behind that endless army, there was a cloud of dust rising into the sky. He's here. The legendary Yu of Gojoseon from the Great Han Empire had arrived. Thinking of this, Milton tried hard to calm his suddenly beating heart and shouted, "Attack! Enemy attack! Everyone, prepare for battle." The moment Milton finished speaking, all the natives and players on the city walls moved. Sadir City was the #1 border city of America. To other players, it was an indestructible military fortress. In addition to the 10-meter wide and 30-meter tall city wall, there was a tall cylindrical fortress every 50 meters on the city wall. With such a layout, each section of the city wall would be protected by 2 fortresses, which would increase the defensive power of the city wall by several levels. The people on the city walls were in an uproar. All the troops were nervously preparing. Although the defense of Sadr City was already at its best, the main commander, General Milton, still felt uneasy. Looking at the army of reincarnation Immortal City that was getting closer and closer, General Milton felt a sense of trepidation. The future was uncertain, and the outcome was hard to predict. Milton's eyes were filled with worry. If the native general of Sadr City was like this, then the American players who had participated in the defense of the city also had ugly expressions. This is Yi Chen's reincarnation Immortal City army? D***M in it. He just destroyed the Western continent. Why doesn't he rest and reorganize? Why is he attacking our American Immortal City so quickly? Now, in the entire world's gaming area, only our American gaming area is left. It would be strange if Yi Chen didn't come. As for why he didn't rest and reorganize, it must be because he's confident that he can destroy our American Immortal City in one fell swoop. This thug kills the innocent. He's an inhuman. There's no point in saying this now. Moreover, this is the gaming world. After being killed, you won't really die. There's nothing inhuman about that. T. If we're killed too many times, our strength in the real world will definitely decrease. At that time, how will we deal with the endless number of magical beasts outside the city? In the end, we'll still die. So Yi Chen is a thug. No, he's a demon king. A bloody demon king from hell. Don't talk nonsense. There's only one thing we need to do now. We can't let Yi Chen break through the city. Otherwise, when we return to the real world, none of us will have a good time. But why do I have a bad feeling about this? What's there to be afraid of? Our numbers are more than 10 times that of theirs. Moreover, the grades of our equipment are very high. Even if Yi Chen can fight, what can he do? As long as we don't give up, victory will belong to the United States. Long live the United States. Long live the United States. Outside Sadr City, on the vast plains, the reincarnation Immortal City's army, under the leadership of Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Dian Wei, Zhao Yun, Huang Zhong, and other famous generals, rushed towards Sadr City with unparalleled speed. Rumble, rumble, clatter, clatter. The hooves of the horses galloped on the ground, and banners fluttered in the wind. Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, Li Yuanba, and other generals looked at each other 2 kilometers away from Sadr City, and then directly gave the order to attack. All troops listen up. Target Sadr City, fire at will. Oh. The distant and long sound of the bugle horn resounded throughout the entire battlefield. In the next second, the reincarnation Immortal City soldiers, who heard the bugle horn to attack, all changed their bows and arrows. Then, they knocked their arrows and aimed at the huge border city of America, Sadr City. Clang, clang, clang. 41 million arrows instantly left the line and then soared into the sky. At this moment, the dense sound of the arrows piercing through the air directly rang out. Whoosh, 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 41 million arrows, in the blink of an eye, crossed a distance of more than 2,000 meters, and then covered the entire sky of Sadr City. Poochie, poochie, poochie. The sound of arrows piercing through bodies followed closely, and it was extremely dense. The Allied army, formed by the soldiers and players on Sadr City, was instantly cleared out. And in this cleared-out area, there were thousands of corpses of soldiers who had been killed on the city walls. At the edge of the cleared area, there were thousands of native soldiers and players whose bodies had been pierced through, but because of non-fatal injuries, they were constantly screaming and wailing in agony. Save me. Save me. I don't want to die." After a round of arrow rain, close to 2 million native soldiers and players of America had died. Because of the arrows that had pierced through the bodies of these dead people, Fresh blood continuously flowed out from their bodies and dyed a large portion of the city walls red. The fresh blood and the pungent smell of blood began to wantonly surge on the city walls of Sadr City. The feeling of death began to invade all the native soldiers and players on the city walls. Emotions of panic began to appear in everyone's hearts. Until now, these natives and players of America, who had not seen Yi Chen's reincarnation Immortal City army fight, finally understood one thing. How could Yi Chen destroy so many countries consecutively? No matter what the natives and players of America thought, after the reincarnation Immortal City army's attack began, there were no signs of stopping. Wave after wave of arrow rain mercilessly rose into the sky and then bloomed on the city walls of Sadr City. Following the blossoming of the arrow rain, the players and native soldiers of America fell in droves, one after another. Even though there were some who were wearing heaven-grade equipment, in front of the spirit-grade arrows of the reincarnation Immortal City army, they were still useless. Like paper, they were all easily pierced through. Following the continuous arrow rain of the reincarnation Immortal City army, the number of corpses on the city walls of Sadr City increased, and the smell of blood became thicker and thicker. The smell of blood in the air also became more and more intense. Following these changes, the atmosphere became more and more panicked and terrified. Wah! Save me! Save me! I don't want to die! God, this is not fair! Why is the range of their arrows so far? I am wearing heaven-grade equipment. Why is it so easily pierced through? On the city walls of Sadr City, the natives and players of America were wailing and crying nonstop. They did not understand. They were sullen. They were angry. They were in despair. They hated God. Why did he allow Yi Chen to be so powerful that even if they gave it their all, they would not be able to fight against the reincarnation Immortal City army? They all let out howls of unwillingness and despair, but these howls were quickly drowned out by the sound of the arrows falling from the sky. After that, there was no more sound. The reincarnation Immortal City army was getting closer and closer, and the area covered by the arrow rain gradually spread from the city walls to the area within the city. The native soldiers and the players from America were stunned when they saw this attack. None of them had experienced such a terrifying arrow rain before. Although they had received information about the reincarnation Immortal City's army and knew that their arrows were very powerful and could shoot from a long distance away, they were still shocked when they saw this. However, hearing about it and experiencing it for themselves were two completely different concepts. The America players and native soldiers had never fought against the reincarnation Immortal City army before, and previously, they thought that with their cultivation and equipment advantage, they could fight against the reincarnation Immortal City for a while. However, now they truly understood how terrifying the reincarnation Immortal City army was. Chapter 1153. Quick, spread out, find cover. After realizing that their own armors and shields were unable to block the arrow rain from the reincarnation Immortal City's army, the various officers of Sadr City all started shouting in panic. They had wanted to rely on the city walls to block the arrows from the reincarnation Immortal City's army. However, they had neglected the fact that many of the native soldiers and players had been killed by the arrows that had pierced through the bricks used to build the city walls. They had also neglected the fact that Sadr City was filled with people. Under such circumstances, trying to avoid the arrow rain from the reincarnation Immortal City's army was simply wishful thinking. Furthermore, they had no way of evacuating in a short period of time. The orders of the various officers of Sadr City, whether it was on the city walls or within the city, were all thrown into chaos. You pushed me, I pushed you, and then the arrows that fell from the sky pierced through their bodies and nailed them to the ground. Fresh blood continued to spurt out. Mournful howls and fearful screams rang out one after another. Rumble, rumble. 10,000 horses galloped and the earth rumbled. The reincarnation Immortal City's army followed Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, and the other generals. As they charged towards Sadr City, the arrows in their hands did not seem to have any intention of stopping. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Wave after wave of arrows tore through the air, and the sound of arrows piercing through the air resounded through the city. The dense rain of arrows was like a swarm of locusts, covering the sky as they shot towards Sadr City. The panicking magnesium soldiers and players were continuously nailed to the ground by the dense rain of arrows that fell from the sky. Under the merciless rain of arrows, the magnesium soldiers and players were continuously shot, fell to the ground, bled, and then died. Boiling hot blood continuously gushed out from their wounds, dyeing the stone roads of Sadr City red. All of the guards had already fallen into a state of mental breakdown. The magnesium players and natives, who had not been very resolute not long ago, were now filled with endless fear and despair. Why was it like this? Were they gods? Why were they able to easily pierce through heaven-grade armors? Looking at the miserable state of Sadr's city lord on the city walls, General Milton looked helplessly at the sky. He had thought that the army of the Reincarnation Immortal City was very strong, but Sadr City had a total of 100 million soldiers. How many of them had been killed in such a short time? 10 million? 20 million? The battle hadn't even started yet. It had only been a few rounds of arrow rain, and his troops were already on the verge of collapse. What would happen if the army of the Reincarnation Immortal City invaded the city? Milton didn't dare to continue thinking about it. He was afraid that if he continued to think about it, he would fall into despair. He had to persevere because he had long since heard that the great Han Empire's Yu of Gojoseon, who was attacking Oman, had given the order to his army to kill them all, not leaving a single one alive. Under such an order, if he did not resist, he would only be slaughtered. Therefore, he had no choice but to persevere and resist. Fortunately, there were enough soldiers defending the city. Reincarnation Immortal City's army couldn't possibly wipe out all of Sadr City's defenders with just arrows. Now, the only hope was to engage in close combat. As for long-range soldiers, they could only be slaughtered continuously. The general of Sadr City, Milton, thought of this. He then looked at the army of the Reincarnation Immortal City outside the city. God is with us. We will definitely be able to stop this group of demons. We definitely can. Rumble, rumble. 10,000 horses galloped, and the earth rumbled. The Reincarnation Immortal City's army, which had a brutal, barbaric, bloodthirsty, and callous aura, charged towards Sadr City after a few rounds of arrow rain. Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Huang Zhong, and the other generals charged to the front. They didn't slow down at all. When they reached the city gates, Zhang Fei, who was the fastest, shouted loudly. He raised the snake spear in his hand and fiercely swung it towards the city gates. Boom! The thick and heavy city gates, which were completely made of metal, instantly exploded and turned into debris. Kill them all. Don't leave a single one alive. Zhang Fei's eyes widened and then roared. After shouting, he charged into Sadr City with Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Huang Zhong, and the other generals. The Reincarnation Immortal City's army followed closely behind and charged into Sadr City. Then, they charged towards Sadr City's defenders with incomparable ferocity. Boom, boom, boom. Crackle, crackle, crackle. Incomparably dense sounds of bodies exploding and bodies being cut instantly rang out. It was caused by the attacks of Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, and the other generals. They were all at the Purple Mansion state, against these magnesium soldiers and players who were not even at the mortal evolution state. It was simply like chopping melons and vegetables. After one attack, tens of thousands of people died on the spot. Their bodies either exploded into pieces of flesh and blood that filled the sky or were cut into countless pieces. In an instant, blood flowed all over the ground, and the stench of blood filled the air. Rumble, rumble. Tens of thousands of horses galloped, and the earth rumbled. Following closely behind, the Reincarnation Immortal City's army followed closely behind. Then, without hesitation, they raised the spears in their hands and simply stabbed out violently. Poochie, poochie, poochie. Incomparably dense sounds of bodies being pierced instantly rang out. Then a row of magnesium soldiers and players were directly pierced through. Then they were violently lifted up and thrown far away. Then they landed on the ground and were trampled into meat paste by the galloping warhorses. The Satyr City's defenders and the magnesium players didn't even have time to resist before they were killed on the spot by the reincarnation Immortal City's army. A path of blood, flesh, and broken limbs appeared in Satyr City. Seeing this scene, General Milton's body began to tremble uncontrollably. Previously, the Satyr City's defenders were unable to resist and counterattack. In the end, 30 million of them were killed by the arrow rain of the reincarnation Immortal City's army. Hence, he subconsciously thought that he could only fight with the reincarnation Immortal City's army in close combat. But now, the more violent and rapid rate of death of his own soldiers clearly told him one thing. That was, he thought too much. "Oh God, are you going to abandon your people?" Milton yelled as he looked at the sky with despair in his eyes. Rumble, rumble, there were still many defenders and players in Satyr City. There were so many that ordinary defense organizations couldn't charge at all. But the reincarnation Immortal City's army wasn't an ordinary defense organization. Every one of them had advanced to the mortal evolution state. In addition, they were riding on war horses that had been modified by the reincarnation Immortal City's environment. It was easy for them to charge in the sea of people. Swathes of Magnesian soldiers and players were mercilessly slaughtered, again and again. Fresh red blood began to gather, and then flowed freely. Shrill cries of agony, accompanied by flesh and blood splashed into the air by the hooves of the horses, rang out continuously within Satyr City. This was war. There was no sympathy, no mercy. There was only death and mourning. There was no way out. This was the fate that all the natives and players in Satyr City had to face at this moment. There was great fear between life and death. Some were so afraid that they were in despair. Some were so crazy that they didn't fear anything. It was the same for the natives and players in Satyr City. Fight it out with them. Angry roars mixed in with the mournful cries sounded very quickly. The natives and players in Satyr City, who were crazy to the point that their eyes were red, attacked the reincarnation Immortal City's army with all their might. Bows and arrows, javelins, and so on. All kinds of weapons were thrown at the reincarnation Immortal City's army. Their hearts were filled with fear, but fear had given them the ability to go crazy. They wanted to drag at least one reincarnation Immortal City soldier down with them before they died. It was a pity that they thought too much. The defense of the reincarnation Immortal City's soldiers and the war horses that they were riding were strengthened by the constant battles. It wasn't something that their attacks could break. Moreover, the reincarnation Immortal City's soldiers wouldn't let any attacks land on themselves or their war horses. Chapter 11:54. Time passed slowly. The bloody massacre became faster and faster as the number of defenders in Satyr City decreased. 2 hours later, the defenders of Satyr City were completely wiped out by the reincarnation Immortal City's army. The general of the city, Milton, was the last one to fall. His corpse's eyes were wide open after he died. His face was filled with despair and sorrow. In his last consciousness, he saw the end of the United States of America. That was the destruction of the country. The moment the battle ended, the world announcement rang out. Ding! Player Yi Chun has conquered Satyr City of the United States of America. Special reward to Player Yi Chun. Heaven and Earth Fate X asterisk asterisk asterisk. The world announcement rang out 3 times in a row. It instantly caused an uproar in the world channel. Damn, it just said that Yi Yu of Gojoseon is going to attack the United States of America. Now, he's going to attack the border city of the United States of America? Nonsense. If Yi Yu of Gojoseon didn't attack that Satyr City, why would the world announcement say that? Get lost. I'm just lamenting. Do you understand? When the world announcement of the World War appeared, I was already thinking that Yi Yu of Gojoseon might sweep the world. I didn't expect that he would really sweep the world. What do you mean by might? It's obviously a certainty. Damn, why don't you think about who Yi Yu of Gojoseon is? He's a man who even dares to mess with the God of Light. To be honest, I think that even if Yi Yu of Gojoseon participated in the World War, he could also sweep the world. Not to mention that Yi Yu of Gojoseon is leading an army. Yi Yu of Gojoseon is the strongest player. That goes without saying. But then again, when I was in the Empire of Southeast Asia, a player from the United States of America who went there to participate in the World Storyline mission seemed to have said that the United States of America was not afraid of Yi Yu of Gojoseon. I wonder if they have any trump cards? Trump cards? Of course they do. Don't forget, even the tiny Southeast Empire has its own trump card. How can America not have one? So what if he has a trump card? Don't forget, Boss Yi-chun even swallowed the God of Light's right hand. That is, the World Channel was abuzz with activity. After Yi-chun took a look, he looked straight at Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, Li Yuanba, and the other generals who were covered in the enemy's blood. Let's split up and sweep through America. Gather at Peanut Shield. Yes, my lord. Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, Li Yuanba, and the other generals heard this and bowed to Yi-chun in unison. After the crowd finished speaking, they directly led their respective armies and left Seder City. After that, they split up and headed towards the borders of the Magnesium country. In the distance, the Eastern players who had used various methods to teleport directly to the border of the Magnesium nation rushed into Seder City excitedly. Although most people did not see the battle in Seder City, there were still players who had special items that clearly saw the battle in the city and described the process of the battle. Whether they were showing off or shocked, these are not important. What was important was that the Eastern players who came to America's territory all confirmed one thing. That was, the equipment, skills, and items in Seder City were piled up layer after layer. Of course, these were all things that Yi-chun, the strongest player in the East, did not care about. However, the things that Yi-chun did not care about, as normal players they cared about. If there was something good, they would replace it. If there was something slightly worse, they would sell it. No one would complain about having too much money. Just as the Eastern players, who had been following behind Yi-chun, rushed to Seder City to pick up all the loot, the Reincarnation Immortal City's army began to march in a frenzied and barbaric manner. Rumble, rumble, 10,000 horses galloped and the earth rumbled. The Reincarnation Immortal City's army was extremely fast. It did not take long for them to disappear into the distance. Battle was the main theme of the Reincarnation Immortal City's army's expedition this time. As time passed, the cities in America's territory were destroyed by the Reincarnation Immortal City's army one after another. The natives and players in the cities were all killed without exception. The smell of blood started to reverberate in America's territory. For hours later, all the cities in America's territory were leveled by the Reincarnation Immortal City's army. Peanut Shield, outside the capital of America's America. The Reincarnation Immortal City's army that had swept all the way here started to gather. In the Reincarnation Immortal City's City Lord's mansion, Yi-chun released his divine sense and covered the entire Peanut Shield. He glanced at the Peanut Shield City and then looked at Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, and the other generals. Stand by. Yes, my lord. Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, and the other generals were stunned when they heard this. Then, they hurriedly bowed and greeted the Reincarnation Immortal Island that had appeared from the void. Hearing this, Yi-chun looked at Guo Jia, Pang Tong, Jia Su, Tian Feng, and Chen Kun, who had been observing the battlefield map and were ready to attack at any time. All of you, keep your eyes open. If there's anything wrong, attack with all your might. Pope Joseph had a terrifying number of powerful items. If Yi-chun continued to let the Reincarnation Immortal City's army attack the Peanut Shield City, there was a high chance that the Reincarnation Immortal City's army would be damaged if the Pope used his powerful items. This was not in line with Yi-chun's original intention of using the war to train the army. Therefore, Yi-chun did not want his army to participate in this last battle. Guo Jia, Tian Feng, Jia Su, Pang Tong, and Chen Kun heard Yi-chun's order and their faces turned serious. Then they bowed to Yi Chun and said, "Yes, my lord." In the temple of the Luo sect in the Peanut Shield City. "Your Holiness, America, America," the leader of the black players said with a pale face as he looked at Pope Joseph. When Qin Yin, who was standing next to the Pope, heard the black player leader's words, which were filled with fear, she glanced at him and said, "Don't worry. Calm down. Even if everyone in America dies, as long as the Pope is here, victory will still belong to the United States." The Pope, who was resting with his eyes closed, opened his eyes and said, 12 knights. Let's go." "Yes, Your Holiness." The moment they finished speaking in unison, 12 knights in golden armor walked out of the shadows and left the main hall. Reincarnation Immortal City, City Lord's Mansion. After hearing his subordinate's words, Yi Chen nodded and soared into the air. Then, he flew toward the Peanut Shield City at high speed. America was the only novice region in the game world that had survived except for the novice regions of the Three Kingdoms. Now, except for the Peanut Shield City, the entire America had been razed to the ground by Yi Chen's army. Therefore, as long as Yi Chen destroyed the Peanut Shield City, the special plot of the World War would officially end. Then, Yi Chen's plan to plunder the fortune of heaven and earth would be completed. After a few breaths, Yi Chen arrived at the outskirts of the Peanut Shield City. Just as Yi Chen was about to fly into the Peanut Shield City, a translucent light shield appeared out of thin air and enveloped the Peanut Shield City. The fortune shield, at this thought, Yi Chen curled his lips in disdain. Then, he waved his right hand, and the dark and thick connate ultimate treasure, the God Slayer, appeared in Yi Chen's hand instantly. Glancing at the translucent light shield, Yi Chen raised the God Slayer in his right hand and stabbed it directly. With a poochie sound, the God Slayer pierced through the translucent fortune shield. At the same time, the God Slayer in Yi Chen's right hand shook violently. With a buzz sound, countless ripples appeared on the translucent fortune shield. Then with a bang, it exploded into pieces. Looking at the empty city wall, Yi Chen smiled coldly. The Pope was indeed the Pope. He had too many tools in his hands. He didn't even want the soldiers guarding the city. At this thought, Yi Chen flew straight toward the Luo sect. Just as Yi Chen arrived above the Luo sect, the 12 knights, standing in front of the Luo sect's main hall, raised their heads and looked at Yi Chen in unison. The next second, they shouted in unison, "Angel's Possession!" Yi Chen's eyes lit up when he heard this. "Damn it, I like this skill." The 12 knights were the Pope's followers. Each of them could summon angels and had their own set of inheritances. If they didn't use the ability to summon angels, Yi Chen wouldn't gain much from killing them. However, if they used it, then the benefits that Yi Chen could gain would be multiplied by tens or hundreds of times. Otherwise, Yi Chen wouldn't be so happy when he saw Pope Joseph's 12 knights use the ability to summon angels. Just as Yi Chen finished thinking, 12 golden pillars of light suddenly descended from the sky and covered the 12 knights. At the same time, 12 shadows of angels with golden halos above their heads and golden wings on their backs, emitting golden light, rose from the 12 knights' bodies as a reward from the golden pillars of light. Then they fell again. In the next second, the strength of the 12 knights skyrocketed. In the time it took to breathe, they reached the tribulation stage. Chapter 1155. Damn it. It was indeed angel possession. These scumbags who weren't even in the mortal evolution state reached the tribulation transcendent state in the blink of an eye. Just as Yi Chen thought of this, the chi of the 12 knights surged again until they reached the pinnacle stage of human immortal before calming down. The 12 knights were comparable to human immortals. Not bad. At least, he didn't have to worry about getting lesser rewards. Just as Yi Chen thought of this, the world announcement suddenly sounded. Ding! America has helped the 12 knights of Jia country to use the forbidden technique, angel possession. Their state has increased to the pinnacle stage of human immortal, but because their state is not enough, they can't ascend and continue to stay in the newbie area. Ding! America has helped the players, Joseph and Qin Yin, to use the forbidden technique, angel possession. Their state has increased to the earth immortal, but because their state is not enough, they can ascend and continue to stay in the newbie area. Ding! Special World Mission. Cheater possessed by angel automatically activated. The moment the world announcement sounded, all the players received the same message. World Mission. Cheater possessed by angel. Mission background. Due to player Yi Chen's attack, Pope Joseph, player Qin Yin, and the 12 Knights of Luo sect have used the forbidden technique, angel possession. Their state has exceeded the upper limit of the newbie area, but they still remain in the newbie area. Therefore, human punishment has been activated. Mission objective. Kill all the people who use the forbidden technique, angel possession. Mission reward. A super gift pack will be awarded for every person who uses the forbidden technique, angel possession. During the mission, the person who kills the highest number of people using the forbidden technique, angel possession, will receive the ultimate mystery gift pack. Time limit, 1 hour. Punishment for mission failure. The players cannot kill all the cheaters within 1 hour. All the players' attributes will be reset to 0. As soon as the world announcement ended, the world channel went into an uproar after a short period of silence. Damn it! Damn it! Are you kidding me? Why the F***CK? If I fail, one of my attributes will be reset to 0. If I really fail, wouldn't I be F***king crippled? Damn it, what's going on? Weren't the world missions activated by the natives in the past? Why has it changed to players now? Or America has helped the Jia country players? I have a feeling that this is the trump card of America, or Pope Joseph. Otherwise, why wouldn't there be a single soldier stationed in Peanut Shield City? Don't worry, this is the trump card of America. However, we don't need to worry. Don't forget that Yi Yu of Gojoseon is in America, and this mission was drawn out by Yi Yu of Gojoseon. There's no way Yi Yu of Gojoseon will let that nuisance, the Pope, Qin Yin, and the 12 Knights go. Wait a minute, why does Qin Yin sound like an Asian name? You're not mistaken. Qin Yin is a player from the East, and she's the one who offended Boss Yichun. However, before the World War began, she used some kind of item to enter the American game zone. I know that too. Qin Yin seems to have been killed over and over again. I don't know how many times she's been killed. This is what puzzles me the most. Not only did Qin Yin appear in the Luo denomination, but she also knows how to use the art of angel possession. Damn, can't you understand such an obvious reason? It's so simple. Qin Yin has hooked up with the Pope. I don't care about that. I just want to know what will be in the super gift package mentioned in the world announcement. What's in it has nothing to do with you. Don't forget what the mission hint is. F***CK. Human immortal, Earth immortal. Go up and try. I guarantee that you'll fly back before you can pass the test. Peanut Shield City, in front of the gate of the Luo denomination. Demon, accept your judgment. The 12 horsemen, who were surrounded by golden light, flew into the air and faced Yi Chun. They all looked at Yi Chun and shouted coldly, "What are you doing?" If it were in the past, they might still be a little fearful of Yi Chun. But right now, things were different. Now that they were worldly immortals, their hearts were filled with an endless amount of pride. It couldn't be helped. Not only had they reached the human immortal realm, but they had also triggered the world announcement. They didn't care about cheating or not. They only had one thought now, and that was to crush Yi Chun, the demon. As soon as the 12 knights finished speaking, they immediately brandished their weapons and surrounded Yi Chun. Seeing that their strength had skyrocketed, Yi Chun curled his lips in disdain. F***CK, they really think I'm that big of a deal. Thinking of this, Yi Chun moved his primordial spirit and instantly released his powerful divine sense. At this moment, a violent and irresistible aura directly enveloped the 12 knights. Then, the 12 knights, who were full of confidence just a moment ago, suddenly froze. At this moment, Yi Chun waved his right hand, and the dark and thick Godslayer appeared instantly. Glancing at the Godslayer in his hand, Yi Chun raised his right hand and instantly stabbed 12 times. At this moment, 12 small distorted spaces suddenly appeared in the space in front of Yi Chun. Then, The Godslayer's afterimage pierced through. Poochie, poochie, poochie. 12 sounds of bodies being pierced were heard. Then, without exception, the 12 knights' hearts were pierced and they died on the spot. Bang, bang, bang. A series of explosions were heard. The bodies of the 12 knights exploded directly, and then blood and flesh splattered all over the sky. The 12 knights used the angel's possession. Even if their heads were pierced by weapons, they would not die. But the one who attacked them was the Godslayer, a Godslayer with the characteristic of devouring souls. The moment their bodies were pierced by the Godslayer, their souls were devoured by the Godslayer. They couldn't be more dead. And what died with them was the angel that they summoned to the mortal realm and possessed their bodies. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Chun for successfully killing a cheater possessed by a god. You have received a Super Gift Pack X1. As soon as the 12 system notifications ended, an extremely angry voice suddenly came from the distance. Yi Chun, you're finally here. Do you still recognize me? Hearing this, Yi Chun smiled coldly and then looked directly at the man and woman who were rapidly flying over. Joseph and Qin Yan, you sure are gutsy. After seeing me kill 12 knights, you still dare to come over. What kind of blind confidence is this? Qin Yan, you're still so retarded. As soon as Yi Chen's words fell, Qin Yan's face suddenly became extremely livid. But then, she threw her head back and laughed wildly. Ha ha! Yi Chun, you stole my Thunder origin, forced me to flee to another country, and even destroyed the Gongsun clan. The hatred between us is irreconcilable. Today, we'll settle old and new debts together. Qin Yan's words were full of hatred. In her opinion, everything she had suffered, including catering to the 90-year-old Pope Joseph, was all because of Yi Chun. I said you're retarded, but you still won't admit it. Even now, you still think it's natural for you to scheme against me? What a joke. Yi Chun said after he heard Qin Yan's words. He looked at her coldly and said. Hearing this, Qin Yan's eyes immediately became bloodshot. Yi Chun, no matter what you say today, you're going to die. As soon as Qin Yan finished speaking, her aura suddenly erupted, and then a large amount of flames suddenly appeared around her. The scorching flames surrounded her body, making people feel as if they had entered a world of lava. The temperature of the surrounding air also suddenly rose rapidly, as if they were on top of a volcano. I'm going to kill you, pull out your tendons, and skin you alive. Ha ha! At this moment, Qin Yan was on the verge of madness. The murderous aura around her was almost tangible. Amidst a burst of sinister laughter, she suddenly took out an evil weapon and slashed it at Yi Chun. Thunder Fire Annihilation Sword. This sword strike was peerlessly domineering and profound. The terrifying and scorching sword light carried an unstoppable wave of heat as it instantly pierced through space. At the same time, Pope Joseph suddenly shouted from the side. Yi Chun, the last thing you should have done was provoke the Luo sect. After saying this, Pope Joseph's aura suddenly changed. Roar! An earth-shattering dragon roar instantly rang out, and then the phantom of a huge western dragon that was hundreds of meters tall suddenly appeared behind Pope Joseph. At the same time, an extremely powerful desolate aura erupted from the western dragon phantom. In the next second, Pope Joseph's originally bald head was replaced by a head of long black hair. His messy hair hung down to his feet, making him look like an ancient demon king who had descended to the world. At the same time, the golden light emitted from his body suddenly became dazzling, and a huge tail drilled out from behind him. Yi Chun, this day next year will be the anniversary of your death. Pope Joseph's palm moved and clawed at Yi Chun. At the same time, the huge dragon phantom hovering around him also stretched out a huge black dragon claw, which instantly traversed the void and attacked Yi Chun. Die. Pope Joseph was very confident in his attack. In his opinion, Yi Chun was a dead man. Seeing this, Yi Chun curled his lips in disdain. The attack was not bad, but it was a pity that forcibly raised one's cultivation level was originally an external force. How could such strength be unleashed to the extreme? Thinking of this, Yi-Chun directly stabbed the God-Slayer in his right hand forward twice in an instant. At this moment, a black light burst out, full of destructive aura, and directly exploded. Bang! Bang! After two earth-shaking explosions, Pope Joseph's and Qin Yan's attacks directly exploded and then disappeared into nothingness. Upon seeing this, Qin Yan and Joseph's eyes widened in shock. How is this possible? Chapter 1156. Pope Joseph and Qin Yan had never imagined that their attacks, which had reached the Earth Immortal Realm, would not only fail to cause any damage to Yi-Chun, but also be easily defeated by Yi-Chun. In their opinion, no matter how strong Yi-Chun was, it was impossible for him not to be injured when facing an attack from an Earth Immortal Realm expert. However, this was indeed the case. Otherwise, Pope Joseph and Qin Yan would not be so shocked. Looking at the two shocked people, Yi-Chun curled his lips in disdain and then shouted, "Die!" After saying this, Yi-Chun stabbed the God-Slayer in his right hand at Joseph. Seeing Yi-Chun's actions, Joseph's pupils suddenly shrank. He then sternly shouted, "Run!" After shouting, Joseph flew straight into the distance at an extremely fast speed. However, at this moment, the space in front of Joseph suddenly twisted, and then he saw the black tip of the spear coming straight out. With a poochie sound, the black tip of the spear instantly pierced Joseph's heart. Mournful howls of agony followed. At this moment, Pope Joseph spat out a big mouthful of blood. How could this be? Oh, how could you be so strong? As soon as Pope Joseph finished speaking, the God-Slayer flashed and swallowed Joseph's soul in an instant. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi-Chun for successfully killing a cheater possessed by a deity. Player Yi-Chun is rewarded with a super gift package X1. As soon as the system's notification ended, Yi-Chun raised his eyebrows and looked straight at Qin Yan. Qin Yan was about to run away, but when she saw Yi-Chun's gaze, her body suddenly trembled. She wanted to run away, but the process of Joseph's death made her afraid. Otherwise, she would definitely follow in Joseph's footsteps and be stabbed to death by Yi-Chun. No, I can't die. I can't die. At this thought, Qin Yan tried her best to calm her violently beating heart. Then, she knelt down in front of Yi-Chun and bowed. "Lord Yu of Beach, this concubine was wrong. Please forgive this concubine. As long as Lord Yu of Beach is willing to forgive this concubine is willing to be Lord Yu of Beach's slave forever." "You're very clever," Yi-Chun said as he glanced at Qin Yan. "You want to be my slave? You're not qualified." Qin Yan's appearance wasn't bad. If it were someone else, they might really consider taking her as a slave. Unfortunately, Yi-Chun wasn't someone else. There was no way he would take her in. Not at first, and certainly not now. With these words, Yi-Chun stabbed the God-Slayer in his right hand towards Qin Yan without hesitation. Upon seeing this, Qin Yan's pupils constricted and she shrieked, "What's the matter? No, I don't want to die." "Poochie!" Qin Yan's scream was instantly interrupted. Then, she saw the dark and thick God-Slayer pierce through her on the spot. "Yi-Chun, I. Before Qin Yan could finish her words, her soul was completely devoured by the God-Slayer. Then, there was no more life in her. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi-Chun for successfully killing a cheater possessed by a deity. Player Yi-Chun is specially rewarded with a Super Gift Pack X1. At this moment, a world announcement suddenly rang out. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi-Chun for completing the world mission alone. Cheaters possessed by a deity and killing all of them. Player Yi-Chun is specially rewarded with a Super Mystery Gift Pack X1. The world announcement rang out 3 times in a row, instantly causing an uproar in the world channel. Holy shit! Holy shit! I knew that with Yi Yu of Gojoseon around, we wouldn't be crippled by the punishment of this mission. How is it? Did you kill all those Magnesians? Hee, I didn't expect that either. I just didn't expect that Boss Yi-Chan would be able to kill those Americans so quickly. Sigh, we can only look up to the world of experts. With so many gift packs, Yi Yu of Go Josian is going to make a fortune this time. I'm so envious. I must become Yi Yu of Go Josian's woman. Tisich, I think you should go home and take a good look in the mirror. The world channel was abuzz with activity. After taking a look at it, Yichen looked straight at the gift packs in the pocket dimension. I wonder what I'll get. Thinking of this, Yi-chan made a mental command. 14 super gift packs and a mystery gift pack instantly appeared in front of Yi-chan. Yi-chan looked at the row of large gift bags in front of him. With a thought, he opened all 14 super large gift bags. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi-chan for obtaining Phoenix Egg X1. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi-chan for obtaining Phoenix Egg X1. Phoenix Egg, an egg laid by the mythical phoenix. Effect: after dripping a drop of blood on it, the phoenix will recognize you as its master. Looking at the description of the phoenix egg, Yi-chan was stunned for a moment. Then his eyes lit up. Holy shit, this big gift pack actually gave me 14 phoenix eggs. F*CK. The phoenix that was almost extinct in the untainted land is going to be revived in my hands? No matter what, the phoenix egg was indeed a good item. I'll give one to Zhao Yu, Diao-chan, Kai-yin, and Empress Hari. In this way, not only would Zhao Yu, Diao-chan, Kai-yin, and Empress Hari have a good mount, but it would also be able to ignore most fire elemental attacks. Thinking of this, Yi-chan couldn't help but smirk. Then, he looked straight at the mystery gift pack. This mystery gift pack was the final reward of this world mission. I wonder what I'll get. Thinking of this, Yi-chan chose to open it. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi-chan for obtaining Phoenix Egg X10. Holy shit, the Phoenix clan is really going to be revived in my hands, so what if it's revived? After all, a controllable Phoenix could easily become a Daluo Jinxian or even a Demi-Sage. Thinking of this, Yi-chan looked straight at the reincarnation Immortal City's army and shouted, "Attack the city! Kill them all! Yes, my lord!" Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, and the other generals bowed to Yi-chan in unison after hearing Yi-chan's order. After the generals finished speaking, they led their troops towards the last city of America, Peanut Shield City. Not long after, the players of America who had died countless times in Peanut Shield City were slaughtered a few more times. As for the natives, they were all killed without exception. In an instant, the world channel was filled with curses. Yi-chan, you devil, you're killing us in the game world. You're making us lose our ability to resist the demonic beasts in the real world. You're going against humanity. Yi-chan, stop your atrocious acts. Otherwise, you'll become a sinner of humanity. Honorable Yi Yu of Go Josian, although I've been killed many times, I don't hate you. I only hope that you can accept me as your most loyal servant. Damn sinner my ass, anti-human my ass. In this world, the strong preys on the weak. If not for Boss Yi-chan, who knows how badly the East would have been tortured by you. These foreigners are just full of crap. However, I feel an inexplicable sense of pleasure when I see them shouting like that. Hee, they're only saying that because they don't have the ability to fight against Yi Yu of Go Josian. Otherwise, they would have gone to the heavens and used the banner of sanctions, peace, and humanity to harm countries that don't follow their will. Chapter 1157. Just as the players were discussing amongst themselves, a world announcement suddenly rang out. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi-chan for conquering the entire American nation. You will automatically receive all of the American nation's fate. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi-chan for conquering the entire American nation. Player Yi-chan is rewarded with all of the American nation's fate, innate attribute points x 1,000, and premium spiritual stones x 10,000. Ding! Player Yi-chan has destroyed all the nations except the Great Han Empire in the World War. In a short period of time, the Great Han God of War title has automatically been upgraded to Earth Star God of War. Earth Star God of War, special title. Only one can appear on each planet. It can be upgraded through the destruction of nations. Basic attributes. Owner, attack power x3, defense x3, overall combat power of the army x1. 5 ding. Player Yi Chun has performed outstandingly in the World War. You will be rewarded with a super gift pack x1. Ding. Player Yi Chun has destroyed all the nations except the Great Han Empire. The Great Han Empire has automatically been upgraded to Celestial Empire. All Eastern players will automatically receive the title of Citizen of Celestial Empire. Citizen of Celestial Empire. Special title, special attribute. Owner of this title will increase attack power by 100% and defense power by 200%. Ding. Player Yi Chun has destroyed all the nations except the Great Han Empire. The beginner's region has automatically been removed. All the territories in the beginner's region have automatically been added to the Great Han Empire's territory. Ding. The World War has officially ended. Players outside the Great Han Empire will automatically receive the monster attribute. Players in the Great Han Empire will be rewarded with experience points by killing monsters. The world announcement was repeated 3 times, instantly causing the entire world channel to explode. Damn, did I hear wrongly? The Citizen of Celestial Empire title will increase our attack power by 100% and defense power by 200%? You didn't hear wrongly. It's really like that, huh? Yi of Gojosian is mighty and domineering. He's invincible. This is awesome. With these attributes, fighting monsters will be much easier in the future. Of course, my attack power has been doubled, and my defense has been tripled. In addition, I picked up all the equipment and skills that Bossy Chun picked up after him. If killing monsters wasn't easy, that would be weird. I didn't expect that at the end of this world war, we would still be able to get such a benefit. Waha, awesome. It does feel good, but everyone has this ability. It's no different from not having it. Don't talk nonsense. There's no such thing. Why don't you try fighting monsters? They're obviously 2 different concepts. F***CK, why fight monsters? Don't forget, there are still foreign players. We can just use them to level up. Hee, I was just about to say this. I didn't expect you to say it. The World War is over. It's not good to continue killing foreign players. Forget it, you saintly be *TCH. Think about it. Once they have the attributes of monsters, they can also level up by killing us. Don't you care about them? Let them grow stronger by themselves? F***CK. If that's the case, then we still have to continue killing foreign players. Of course. Otherwise, won't the Great Han Empire be attacked? The World Channel was abuzz with activity. After a glance, Yichen couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. The World War started and ended earlier than in his previous life. Apart from the bit of luck that the Great Han Empire still had in Lu Hong's hands, the rest of the world's luck had fallen into his hands. His plan for the newbie area could be completed as soon as the vassal tournament started. Thinking of this, Yichen's eyes shone brightly. In the next second, Yichen looked directly at the place where the Pope and Qin Yan had died. Then, he raised his right hand and grasped at the air. After 2 whooshing sounds, 2 glittering crosses instantly flew toward Yichen. Then, Yichen caught them in his hand. There were also storage items in the Western game area, but they were in the shape of F***King crosses. Previously, Pope Joseph didn't even use any powerful tools. God knows if this guy was overconfident or something else. Thinking of this, Yichen clenched his right hand tightly. Bang! Bang! The 2 crosses with storage ability instantly exploded. Then, a large number of items fell out. However, they were immediately collected by Yi Chun into his small world. Looking at the mountainous pile of items in his small world, Yi Chun couldn't help but smirk. Mother **Ker, this Joseph is too overconfident. Mother **Ker, if he uses such a powerful item, I might not be able to protect my army. But now it's all mine. Thinking of this, Yi Chun smiled faintly. Then, he looked directly at the Peanut Shield City and the Reincarnation Immortal City army that had just wiped out all the natives and players. He shouted, "Return to the city. Let's return to the Great Han Empire." Yes, my lord. The earth-shattering roar came from the Reincarnation Immortal City army. and soared into the sky. Hearing the strong homesickness in the soldiers' voices, Yi Chen couldn't help but smile. Then he waved his right hand, and hundreds of distorted spaces appeared out of thin air around the reincarnation Immortal City army. Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, Li Yuanba, and the other military generals looked at each other and smiled. Then they led the reincarnation Immortal City army toward the distorted spaces. It hadn't been long since they left the country for the war. In total, it had only been a few days. However, in these few days, they had followed their lord, Yi Chen, and led the reincarnation Immortal City army to wipe out countless countries and conquer the world. For Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, and the other military generals, besides feeling carefree, they felt endless pride and gratitude. This was because they had followed a good lord. Without their lord, Yi Chen, they wouldn't have been able to reach the Purple Mansion realm, let alone condense a 9-star golden core. Without their lord, Yi Chen, they wouldn't have been able to conquer the world and wipe out countless countries in a few days. Without their lord, Yi Chen, they might still be doing nothing. They might even be running around to make a living. Therefore, they were proud and grateful. Great Han Empire, Luoyang, Imperial Palace Hall. Submit a memorial if you have one. Withdraw if you don't. Zhang Rang saw that Lu Hong was a little tired. After receiving Lu Hong's signal, he stepped forward and announced. As soon as Zhang Rang finished speaking, the civil and military officials looked at each other and were about to bow and take their leave. At this moment, a surprise shout was heard. Report, Your Majesty, great victory! Yi Yu of Gojoseon has wiped out another country. The Great Han Empire has spread across the world. Chapter 1158. Lu Hong, who had just been about to get up and leave the hall, suddenly froze, and then his eyes brightened. At this moment, the messenger rushed into the main hall and raised the battle report high. Hong knelt down and bowed. Your Majesty, a great victory. Zhang Rang stepped down from the stage with a smile. He took the battle report and examined it. After confirming that it wasn't poisonous, he respectfully handed it to Lu Hong. After receiving the battle report, Lu Hong opened it and read it directly. After the time it took to brew a cup of tea, Lu Hong said good 3 times in a row, and then he threw his head back and howled with laughter. His dejected expression instantly vanished. At this moment, a civil official glanced at Lu Hong, stepped forward, and bowed. Your Majesty, may I ask which country Yi Yu of Gojoseon has destroyed? Hearing this question, Lu Hong immediately stopped laughing and looked at the officials. The Kingdom of Oman, the last country in this realm. The officials were all taken aback, and when they came back to their senses, they glanced at each other and then bowed to Lu Hong. Congratulations, Your Majesty. Congratulations, Your Majesty. Hearing this, Lu Hong laughed, then looked straight at Zhang Rang and said, You're right. Father Rang, the battle report does not say when our good son-in-law will return to the Great Han. Do you know the exact time? Zhang Rang thought for a moment before bowing and replying to Lu Hong. Your Majesty, this realm has already been incorporated into the Great Han Empire and can be used through teleportation formations. Presumably, Lord Yu of Beach will return today. When Lu Hong heard this, his eyes couldn't help but light up. He then slapped the battle report in his hand on the table in front of him and shouted, Since that's the case, follow us out of the city to welcome our good son-in-law. Yes, Your Majesty. Your Majesty. The officials glanced at each other and then bowed to Lu Hong. At Lu Hong's side, Zhang Rang immediately gave a fawning smile and bowed. Your Majesty, if Lord Yu of Beach were to see His Majesty personally welcome you, I wonder how moved he would be. Ha ha! We want Yu of Beach to know that in all of the Great Han, only he is the person we value the most, Lu Hong said with a laugh. When Zhang Rang heard this, he smiled flatteringly again and then bowed. Your Majesty's words are extremely correct. This servant will go and prepare a ceremonial procession. Lu Hong nodded and said, Okay, right, tell father to send the order that tonight we will hold a banquet to entertain our good son-in-law. When he heard Lu Hong's words, Zhang Rang, he bowed. Yes, Your Majesty. After Zhang Rang finished speaking, he hurriedly left the main hall. In the city governor's mansion of the reincarnation immortal city in the sky above the peanut shield in America. Yi Chun, who had released his divine sense, sensed that the soldiers of the reincarnation immortal city had all returned to the reincarnation immortal city. With a thought, the reincarnation immortal island, which carried the reincarnation immortal city, flew to a height of 10,000 meters. Yi Chun did not return to the Great Han Dynasty directly, because the reincarnation immortal island that was carrying the reincarnation immortal city was simply too big. If Yi Chun returned directly, he would definitely be seen by the natives of the Great Han Empire. Although nothing would happen to Yi Chun might cause Lu Hong to have other ideas. For example, Lu Hong might ask for the reincarnation immortal city. This was not something Yi Chun wanted to see. This did not mean that Yi Chun was afraid of Lu Hong. After all, Yi Chun was not even afraid of the mighty figures of the untainted world. How could he be afraid of Lu Hong? The reason why Yi Chun did not want Lu Hong to see the reincarnation immortal city was to prevent similar things from happening. After all, Yi Chun could not casually kill Lu Hong now. Otherwise, Yi Chun's plan to take away all the qi of heaven and earth of the Great Han Empire would fail. Yi Chun did not want this to happen. Yi Chun glanced at the devastated America and smiled. Then, with a thought, the space in front of the reincarnation immortal island suddenly became distorted. In the next second, the reincarnation immortal island flew out of the distorted space and disappeared. Great Han Empire, Yuzhou. In order to dispel Lu Hong's suspicions, the space 10,000 meters above the rebuilt reincarnation city suddenly became distorted. Then, a huge island suddenly flew out. If someone saw the huge island that covered the sky above the white clouds, they would immediately realize one thing. This island was the reincarnation immortal island of Yu of Beach and Yi Chun of the Great Han Empire. Reincarnation immortal city, City Lord's Mansion. Yi Chun, who had just returned to the Great Han Empire and was preparing to rest for a day before going to Luoyang, was about to go offline and see the girls in the real world when Guo Jia called out to him. Master, are you going back to that world? Huh? Hearing Guo Jia's question, Yi Chun was slightly stunned. Then, he turned to look at Guo Jia. Seeing this, Guo Jia hurriedly bowed and said, Master, Jia knows that you want to get along with Mistress, but it's not suitable for you to go to that world right now. Feng Xiao, are you saying that we have to go to Luoyang now? Yi Chun immediately understood Guo Jia's meaning and asked. After hearing Yi Chun's words, Guo Jia nodded solemnly and bowed, saying, Master, that's right. Master, this world has been conquered by you and is now part of the Great Han Empire's territory. Therefore, other countries' teleportation formations can be used directly to teleport back to Luoyang. If I'm not wrong, His Majesty is either waiting for you in the palace or outside the city with the civil and military officials. Therefore, you have to go to Luoyang. Hearing this, Yi Chun nodded. Then, with a thought, he released his divine sense and enveloped the entire Great Han Empire. In the next second, Yi Chun saw Lu Hong's group leaving the imperial palace with the civil and military officials and a majestic honor guard, preparing to leave the city. What the F***, CK? Guo Jia was right, forget it, I'll go to Luoyang first. Otherwise, that old fellow Lu Hong won't be happy and cause trouble for me. Speaking of which, Lu Hong's body is filled with a strong aura of death. He's going to die soon. That's fine too. Once he dies, the Dongzhuo rebellion will begin. At that time, the dukedom struggle will begin. At that time, I'll sweep through the world and my plan to ascend from the beginner's realm will be complete. However, before I ascend, my 5 elements divine body must evolve. At this thought, Yi Chun looked at Guo Jia, Pang Tong, Jia Su, Tian Feng, and Chen Kun. Who wants to go to Luoyang? As soon as Yi Chun finished speaking, Guo Jia, Pang Tong, Jia Su, Tian Feng, and Chen Kun exchanged glances and bowed in unison. Farewell, Master. Yi Chun was taken aback. Then he glared at Guo Jia, Pang Tong, Jiasu, Tian Feng, and Chen Kun. No alcohol today. As soon as Yichen finished speaking, Guijia, Peng Tong, Jiasu, Tian Feng, and Chen Kun's faces froze. Yichen laughed and said, "I'm just joking. I'm just messing with you. Pass down the order. Drink as much 100-flower wine as you want today." "Thank you, master." Guijia, Peng Tong, Jiasu, Tian Feng, and Chen Kun's eyes lit up. They hurriedly bowed to Yi Chun and thanked him loudly. Yi Chun shook his head helplessly. Then he looked at the drill ground and transmitted his voice. "Samsara Legion, select 100 men to follow me to Luoyang." The moment Yi Chun spoke, 100 people from the Samsara Legion, who had just returned, leaped out with a whoosh. When Yi Chun saw this, he laughed heartily. Then he waved his right hand and led the 100 soldiers of the Samsara Legion down to the city lord's residence of Samsara City, which he had specially shown to Lu Hong. As soon as Yi Chun and his entourage landed, the maidservants in the city lord's mansion of Samsara City, who happened to see this scene, were all stunned. Then they hurriedly bowed to Yi Chun respectfully. "Greetings, Your Excellency Yu of Beach." When Yi Chun heard the maids greeting him, he nodded. Then he waved his right hand, and the space beside him suddenly distorted. At this moment, a thunderous neigh was heard. Nay, in the next second, a golden Pegasus leapt out of the distorted space and came to Yi Chun's side. Yi Chun patted Little Gold, who was rubbing against his clothes affectionately. He smiled and mounted the Pegasus. "Let's go to Luoyang." "Yes, master. My lord." The 100 mounted soldiers of the Samsara Legion bowed and shouted in unison when they heard this. Chapter 1159. When Yi Chun heard this, he smiled and patted Golden Pegasus's head. Nay, the Pegasus, Little Gold, let out a thunderous neigh and charged out of the mansion, heading for the teleportation formation. 100 soldiers of the Samsara Legion hurriedly got on their horses and followed after Golden Pegasus. On the streets of Samsara City, the people who were specially arranged to stay there were stunned when they saw Yi Chun riding Little Gold. Then their eyes widened. "You of Beach, Your Excellency! It's you of Beach, Your Excellency!" After the surprise shouts, the people on the street, without exception, all stood on both sides of the street. Then they bowed to Yi Chun and said loudly, "Greetings, Your Excellency, you of Beach, Your Excellency. Greetings, Your Excellency." Although the way they addressed him was different, the strong surprise, respect, and worship in their words were real. Yi Chun glanced at the people who were bowing to him on both sides of the street and nodded with a smile. The people on both sides of the street who were specially arranged in the rebuilt Samsara City to convey the message that Samsara Immortal City didn't exist to the outside world suddenly let out more enthusiastic cheers when they saw this. At first glance, it seemed a little unreasonable. After all, Yi Chun just smiled and nodded. How could it attract such an enthusiastic response? But this was the truth. Because these people were all people who followed Yi Chun, they knew one thing. Without Yu of Beach, Yi Chun of the Great Han Empire, they would have either starved to death or died in wars. It could be said that Yi Chun gave them a stable life and a happy and promising future. It was also because of this reason that the people were 100% loyal, grateful, and worshipful towards Yi Chun as their lord. Therefore, no matter how unreasonable or incomprehensible the people's cheers seemed, they came from the bottom of their hearts. There was no falsehood in them. Tut, tut, tut. The sound of hooves clattering on the ground rang out continuously. Yi Chun arrived at the transportation array amidst the frenzied cries of the commoners. 100 Samsara Legion soldiers followed closely behind. In the next second, the teleportation portal lit up, and Yi Chun and 100 Samsara Legion soldiers disappeared. 50 miles north of Luoyang, a teleportation portal suddenly lit up. Then, Yi Chun and 100 Samsara Legion soldiers appeared. Yi Chun didn't choose to use spatial powers to teleport to Luoyang to prevent the natives of this world from sensing his strength. Otherwise, it was impossible for Yi Chun to create a teleportation array. He only needed to use his spatial powers to arrive at Luoyang in one step. Of course, even if he used the teleportation array, it didn't take up much of Yi Chen's time. Yi Chen glanced at Luoyang's city, which was invisible to the naked eye. Go! Yes, Lord! The 100 soldiers of the Samsara Legion cupped their fists and bowed when they heard this, loudly calling out in greeting. Yi Chen squeezed his horse's belly and headed straight for Luoyang. The 100 Samsara Legion soldiers followed closely behind. While Yi Chen was on his way to Luoyang, Elder Yun frowned after listening to his subordinate's report in a hall on top of a mountain in the Great Han Empire. Then, he looked at the middle-aged man beside him and asked, Xiao Qian, is there a little girl in the Purple Mansion realm in Samsara City in the real world? The middle-aged man, surnamed Qian, nodded and said, Elder Yun, this information was sent back by someone who is under a restriction. It shouldn't be wrong. The white-haired Elder Yun frowned again. He tapped his fingers on the armrest a few times, then stood up and walked out of the hall. He looked up at the sky. The middle-aged man, surnamed Qian, walked out after him. He hesitated for a moment and then asked, Elder Yun, we've lost more than 1,000 men to Samsara City. Should we stop looking for information about Samsara City for the time being? Man proposes, God disposes. I didn't expect Yi Chen to have such a spirit pet. Elder Yun said with a long sigh. The middle-aged man, surnamed Qian, was taken aback. He then asked, Spirit pet? Elder Yun nodded and said, Spirit pets can be controlled by humans. Spiritual pets are special animals that can be controlled by humans, or in other words, us human players. However, their aptitudes are better than humans, and their cultivation speed is faster. If we can provide them with spiritual stones and spiritual herbs, their cultivation speed will be even faster. After saying this, Elder Yun waved his right hand, and a black cat with long horns appeared on the ground. It's a spirit pet. It's a high-grade spirit beast. Yi Chen's spirit pet should be a top-grade spirit beast, or even an immortal beast. The middle-aged man, surnamed Qian, took a deep look at the horned black cat on the ground. He then looked at Elder Yun and asked, Elder Yun, do you mean to capture the little girl who turned into a human? Oh no, it's a spirit pet? A spirit pet will only recognize one master in its lifetime. Even if we capture it, it's useless. Elder Yun shook his head and said. The middle-aged man, surnamed Qian, was taken aback. He then said seriously, Elder Yun, I understand. Old Yun, I understand. I'll order people to use a powerful tool to blow up Yi Chen's spirit pet and cut off one of its arms. Go. Remember, do it cleanly. Also, the world war is over. Yi Chen should have returned to the Great Han Dynasty by now. Pass down the order that the plan can begin. Elder Yun, isn't it a little too early to make a move? According to historical records, Lu Hong is still a few years away from death. If we kill Lu Hong in advance, we'll seriously damage the trajectory of history. Moreover, this will also help Yi Chen. The middle-aged man, surnamed Qian, was taken aback. He then hurriedly bowed and said, Elder Yun, don't you think it's a little too early? According to historical records, Lu Hong is still a few years away from death. If we kill Lu Hong in advance, we'll seriously damage the trajectory of history. Moreover, this will also help Yi Chen. When Elder Yun heard the middle-aged man, surnamed Qian's words, he faintly smiled and turned to look at the middle-aged man, surnamed Qian. He turned to the middle-aged man and said, Xiao Qian, do you know what Yi Chen wants the most? Unifying the world? The middle-aged man, surnamed Qian, was stunned for a moment before asking. Yes and no. After old Yun said those words, he pointed to the sky and then pointed to the earth. After that, he continued. He wants the fortune of heaven and earth. He wants to walk the path of the Emperor's path. Elder Yun, I don't quite understand. The middle-aged man, surnamed Qian, thought for a moment and then looked at Elder Yun. You don't need to understand. You only need to know one thing. We can't let Yi Chen walk the path of the Emperor's path. Otherwise, Yi Chen will become an existence that we can never fight against. Elder Yun patted the middle-aged man, surnamed Qian's shoulder, and said, Chapter 1160. When a middle-aged man heard Elder Yun's words, his expression slightly changed and he hastily bowed. Yes, Elder Yun, I'll do it right away. When Elder Yun heard this, he glanced at the middle-aged man, surnamed Qian, and earnestly said, Little Qian, do your job well, and you won't be lacking in benefits in the future. Elder Yun, don't worry. I know what to do. When the middle-aged man, surnamed Qian, heard this, a trace of cold sweat appeared on his forehead as he hastily bowed. When the middle-aged man finished speaking, Elder Yun chuckled and nodded before walking straight back to the hall at the top of the mountain. With a creak, the door to the hall at the top of the mountain closed. The middle-aged man, surnamed Qian, glanced at the door and let out a long sigh. In the next second, the middle-aged man, surnamed Qian, directly logged off and disappeared. Luoyang, 10 miles north of the city. At the very front of the endless welcoming party, the emperor of the Great Han Dynasty, Lu Hong, was sitting in a dragon carriage and wearing a dragon robe. He glanced at the empty distance and then directly looked at Zhang Rang standing outside the dragon carriage. Father Rang, why hasn't you of Beach arrived yet? When Zhang Rang heard Lu Hong's question, he hastily bowed to Lu Hong in the dragon carriage and said, Your Majesty, Lord Yu of Beach just ended the war. Even if you use the teleportation formation, it might take some time. However, this servant estimates that it won't take long. When Lu Hong heard this, he nodded and then couldn't help but yawn. When Zhang Rang saw this, a trace of worry flashed through his eyes. Previously, in order to obtain an official position, Yi Chun had given Zhang Rang and Lu Hong quite a few gifts. Later on, he had even given them quite a few rare treasures. And among them, there were rare treasures that could help Lu Hong recover his energy. After Lu Hong received Yi Chen's gift of rare treasures, his body, which had almost been completely drained, recovered quite a bit. This caused Lu Hong's manly side to erupt once again. Every now and then, he would exhaust his energy on the concubines. This was nothing. If he did it every day, even if his body was made of iron, he would not be able to withstand the torment. As a matter of fact, Lu Hong's body, which had just recovered, was suddenly hollowed out. Zhang Rang naturally knew the reason for Lu Hong's behavior, but Zhang Rang couldn't say it, and he didn't dare to say it. Otherwise, it would definitely make Lu Hong unhappy. Once Lu Hong had unhappy thoughts about Zhang Rang would definitely fall out of favor. This kind of situation was not what Zhang Rang wanted to see. Of course, this was also the reason why Zhang Rang had a worried look in his eyes. After all, if Lu Hong fell, the Great Han Dynasty would change. It was hard to say if Zhang Rang could still be as powerful as he was now. Your Majesty, the wind is cold. Why don't you return to the palace first? This servant will welcome you of Beach here. No need. You of Beach will be here soon. After hearing Zhang Rang's words, Lu Hong was moved, but he immediately shook his head and denied it. However, before Lu Hong could finish his words, he stopped. At the same time, the rumbling of horse hooves could be heard. Rumble, a cavalry of over 100 suddenly rushed out from the fork in the official road and appeared on the official road. That is, hearing Lu Hong's question, Zhang Rang hurriedly looked into the distance, and then his eyes lit up as he bowed and said, Your Majesty, Yu of Beach, that's Yu of Beach. That's right, it's him. Our good son-in-law has returned. Upon hearing Zhang Rang's words, Lu Hong's somewhat dispirited expression instantly brightened, and he stood up from the imperial carriage and loudly called out, Yu of Beach. The moment Lu Hong spoke, all the officials who had been waiting eagerly looked into the distance, and then the eyes of all the military officials who had come to welcome them suddenly constricted. 100 cavalry was very ordinary and would not give people much of a shock, but this was only for ordinary cavalry. At this moment, Yi Chun and the 100 soldiers of the Samsara Legion were galloping toward Luoyang. This was because no matter how the 100 Samsara Legion soldiers who had followed Yi Chun to Luoyang tried to hide their true strength and killing intent, they could not hide the bloody stench that came from killing countless people. On this point, the civil officials were far away and could not sense it clearly. However, The generals who had been through many battles were different. They had killed people and seen people killed. They had experienced many battlefields. Thus, they were far more sensitive to killing intent and the stench of blood than the civil officials. And this was the fundamental reason why all the military officials who had come with Lu Hong to welcome Yi Chun were shocked when they saw Yi Chun and the 100 Samsara Legion soldiers. They couldn't help but be nervous. It was impossible to have soldiers with such a bloody stench without killing tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people. If one person was like this, then 100 people were like this. Let alone ordinary generals. Even the current officials of the court could not compare to such soldiers. And such soldiers just happened to be soldiers under the command of the Great Han Empire's EU of Gojoseon. How could the military officials who had already noticed this not be shocked? Rumble. The hooves of the horses stomped on the ground, sending clouds of dust into the air. The galloping group, including Yi Chun, only had a total of 101 people, but these 101 people had the momentum of an army of 1 million. Ferocious, invincible, and unstoppable. If the civil officials and generals knew that this was the result of the Samsara Legion's soldiers deliberately controlling their momentum, their jaws would probably drop. Yi Chun's group was extremely fast, and Lu Hong's group soon saw their faces clearly. Just as Lu Hong detected the strong stench of blood on the Samsara Legion soldiers, Yi Chun raised his right hand and stopped moving forward. The 100 Samsara Legion soldiers following behind, Yi Chun saw this and pulled the reins in unison before stopping. At the same time, a gentle breeze blew past the 100 Samsara Legion soldiers. Then, they saw that the strong stench of blood on the Samsara Legion soldiers instantly disappeared without a trace. Damn, too many people have been killed, and the stench of blood is too strong. Fortunately, I detected it in advance. Otherwise, that old fellow Lu Hong would have been scared shitless. Thinking of this, Yi Chun dismounted from his horse and led the Samsara Legion soldiers who dismounted and unbuckled their weapons toward Lu Hong's group. Not only was it disrespectful to see the emperor with weapons, but it was also tantamount to treason. Yi Chun didn't want to completely destroy his plan for the newbie zone, which was about to succeed because of such a small matter. When Lu Hong saw that Yi Chun was still 1.5 kilometers away, he was stunned for a moment before he nodded his head in satisfaction. Then, he looked at Zhang Rang and said, "Brother Zhang, you've been waiting for a long time." "Father Rang, you're right. You of Beach are our good son-in-law. Furthermore, you're 100% loyal to us. Your Majesty is right. In terms of who is the most loyal to your Majesty in the Great Han Empire, if King you claim to be second, no one would dare to claim to be first." Zhang Rang nodded seriously when he heard this, before bowing and saying, "What about you, Father Rang?" Hearing this, Lu Hong laughed out loud and asked. When Zhang Rang heard this, he gave a flattering smile and then bowed. "Your Majesty, this servant can't compare to you of Beak's abilities, but this servant's loyalty to your Majesty is definitely the same as that of you of Beach. Ha! Let Father help us down from the carriage. We will welcome our good son-in-law on foot." Lu Hong laughed and then said. As soon as Lu Hong finished speaking, hundreds of pillars of light suddenly lit up among the huge group of people who had come out of the city to welcome Yi Chun's return. Yi Chun, who was walking toward Lu Hong, couldn't help but frown when he saw this. Players had come online, and they were outside Luoyang. Was it an accident, or was it intentional? It couldn't be intentional. There was definitely something wrong with hundreds of people coming online at the same time. Chapter 1161. Just as Yi Chun thought of this, the hundreds of light pillars disappeared. Then, hundreds of players appeared in the crowd of commoners that welcomed Yi Chun. The appearance of the hundreds of players did not cause chaos among the commoners. After all, this was not the beginning of the game. The natives of the game world were already used to players going online and going offline. In addition, everyone's attention was focused on Yi Chun, who had just returned from overseas. No one cared about the players who had just come online. Yi Chun sensed that something was not quite right. The moment the hundreds of players came online, Yi Chen used his divine sense to lock onto them. At this moment, the hundreds of players who had just come online waved their right hands. A jade scroll that was shining with a black light instantly appeared in their right hands. This was Netherworld God-destroying talisman. Damn it, these bastards' target was Lu Hong and the officials of the Imperial Court, including me. The Netherworld God-destroying talisman was a special tool. It was used to destroy the souls of all people below the immortal realm within 100 miles. In Yi Chen's previous life, Yi Chen had obtained 3 Netherworld God-destroying talisman jade scrolls and used them. However, at that time, Yi Chen used the Netherworld God-destroying talisman to kill monsters in groups and not to trick people. Of course, this was not important. What was important was that Yi Chen recognized the origin of the Black Jade Scroll and saw the player's goal. That was to kill Lu Hong and the officials of the Grey Han Empire. Incidentally, they would kill Yi Chen. As for Yi Chen, it was not hard to understand. This was because the players now knew that Yi Chen had spatial abilities. No one was confident that they could kill Yi Chen directly, including the hidden forces. It was also because of this reason that these players did not wait for Yi Chen to come over and directly took out the Netherworld God-destroying talisman. Damn it, these players were most likely sent by the existence that controlled the hidden forces. They were thinking of wiping out Lu Hong and all the civil and military officials of the Imperial Court, directly disrupting the historical trajectory of the Three Kingdoms newbie zone. No, disrupting the trajectory was their goal. Their true goal was Lu Hong's world destiny. They wanted Lu Hong's fortune of the heavens and earth to dissipate completely. Mother asterisk her. Someone knows that I'm walking the path of imperial providence. Thinking of this, Yi Chen's eyes suddenly widened. You want to scheme against me? That depends on whether you have the ability to do so. Thinking up to this point, Yi Chen walked towards Lu Hong. With a thought, the several hundred players who had just taken out the Netherworld God-slaying prisoners were instantly imprisoned in place. The several hundred players standing in line to welcome Yi Chen were all stunned. Then, strange smiles appeared on their faces. At this moment, the black jade scrolls in the hands of the hundreds of imprisoned players suddenly shone with a black light. The Netherworld God-destroying talisman had been activated. Releasing his consciousness, Yi Chen directly imprisoned the several hundred players who had just come online. Seeing this, his face instantly darkened. Mother asterisk her, dogsh asterisk t. These bastards have been cast with Soul Puppet. Puppet was a special spell to control others, and Soul Puppet was a special spell to control the souls of others. For the hundreds of players, it was Soul Puppet that they were afflicted with. Yi Chen did not know who had cast it, but that was not important. What was important was that these people who had been inflicted with Soul Puppet were players, and the caster was also a player. As for this, it would lead to an extremely special result. That was item sharing. To be more precise, the player who cast Soul Puppet could freely use every item on the player who was cast. At this moment, even if the several hundred players imprisoned by Yi Chen could not activate the Netherworld God-destroying talisman, the player who had cast Soul Puppet on them could. Otherwise, the Netherworld God-destroying talisman in the hands of the several hundred players imprisoned by Yi Chen would not have been able to activate it. The person behind this was truly an astute person. He had to find this person as soon as possible, or else, at this thought, Yi Chen, who was walking, swiped his right hand in the air. Hundreds of sounds of space being distorted suddenly rang out. Then, the space where the several hundred players imprisoned by Yi Chen were suddenly distorted. At the same time, the several hundred players disappeared without a trace. In the next second, a series of explosions suddenly rang out 10,000 meters high in the sky. Bam, bam, bam. At the same time, the world suddenly fell into darkness, but returned to normal in the blink of an eye. Lu Hong, who had been watching Yi Chen's group, was slightly stunned, and then looked up at the sky. Zhang Rang, who was beside Lu Hong's dragon carriage, looked at the white clouds in the sky, and then hurriedly looked at Lu Hong and bowed. "Congratulations, Your Majesty! Congratulations, Your Majesty!" When Lu Hong heard Zhang Rang's words, he was stunned again, and then he looked at Zhang Rang and asked, "Father Rang, where did the joy come from?" When Zhang Rang heard this, he glanced at Yi Chun, who was walking over, and then bowed to Lu Hong in an extremely flattering manner. "Your Majesty, Yu of Beach is our great Han's war god, and your Majesty personally conferred this title. Now that Yu of Beach has returned, even the heavens have expressed their gratitude. This is enough to show that your Majesty's imperial edict is the will of the heavens." When Lu Hong heard this, he laughed heartily and said happily, "Ha ha, Father Rang's words are extremely correct. We are the Emperor, the true dragon, the Son of Heaven, recognized by the heavens." When Lu Hong finished speaking, the civil and military officials, who had been stunned by the phenomenon in the sky, looked at each other and then simultaneously bowed to Lu Hong. "Congratulations, Your Majesty. Congratulations, Your Majesty." Thunder during the day was clearly abnormal, but when Zhang Rang said that it was abnormal, it became an auspicious sign. Although the civil and military officials were somewhat disdainful, they wouldn't say anything when Lu Hong was happy and Yi Chun had returned. In the distance, when the ignorant commoners saw this, they followed suit and bowed. "Congratulations, Your Majesty. Congratulations, Your Majesty." Waves of cheers rang out one after another, causing Lu Hong to burst with joy. It was a very comfortable feeling. Yi Chun, who was walking toward Lu Hong, glanced at Zhang Rang and then continued forward. But after taking 3 steps, Yi Chun's eyes suddenly narrowed, and then his left hand silently grabbed at the air. At the same time, 10 miles away, an unsightly player who wanted to go offline was suddenly frozen in place, and then he saw the space around him suddenly distort. In the next second, this player suddenly flew into the distorted space and disappeared. Those who have been affected by soul puppetry would have their souls self-destructed and die for good if they revealed the secret of the mastermind or had their souls searched by Yi Chun. Even if Yi Chun was in the crossing calamity stage, there was nothing he could do about it. Of course, it was not completely impossible for Yi Chun to find the mastermind behind the scenes. The method was to use the spreading news about the Nether Realm to carry out a trap plan. At first glance, Yi Chun's plan might not be able to find a mastermind behind the plot against Yi Chun. After all, the mastermind behind the scenes had the soul puppet technique. But in reality, there was no problem at all. This was because when Yi Chun entered the Nether Realm and subdued the Nether Demon Pig, it was announced in the world. All the players knew about the Nether Realm, which was a higher-level world. If it was any other world, the players might not be that interested. But the Nether Realm was different. It was a higher-level world that represented infinite possibilities. If there was a way to enter the Nether Realm, the players would definitely try to enter and plunder the benefits of the Nether Realm. Among them, the ones who were the most attentive were definitely the hidden forces. And among these hidden forces, the mastermind behind the plot against Yi Chun and controlling the hidden forces was 100%. Although the mastermind behind the scenes might not take action personally, his subordinates would definitely participate. Yi Chun's real target was the subordinates sent by the mastermind behind the scenes. This was because Yi Chun was sure of one thing. Although the subordinates of the mastermind behind the scenes could be controlled by the soul puppet technique, he could not use this technique to control all of his subordinates. To be precise, it was impossible for the mastermind behind the scenes to use the soul puppet technique to control people who were related to him by blood. The only thing to blame was that the soul puppet technique required one to be at least in the Purple Mansion realm to use it. This meant that the mastermind behind the scenes could not use the soul puppet technique with his own abilities. To be more precise, the mastermind behind the plot against Yi Chun was able to use the soul puppet technique with the help of the soul puppet talisman. To use the soul puppet talisman, the user's blood essence had to be consumed. If the user used it on others, it would not be a big deal. But if the user used it on a clansman of the same bloodline, the soul puppet talisman would backfire on the user. It was also because of this reason that the mastermind behind the plot against Yi Chun would not use the soul puppet talisman on a clansman of the same bloodline. Even if the mastermind behind the scenes was deranged, it would still be the same. Of course, this was not important. What was important was that the people sent by the mastermind behind the plot against Yi Chun after hearing the news from the Netherworld would definitely be his clansmen. After all, the Netherworld was too important. If there was some great benefit that was secretly hidden by his subordinates, or if there was a treasure that could dispel the soul puppet technique, and the mastermind did not send anyone he could trust, the soul puppet technique would be dispelled by his subordinates. If this person was coincidentally caught by Yi Chun, then it would be bad. After all, hiding his identity from Yi Chun was not a big deal. But if Yi Chun learned of his identity, then it would be an act of suicide. Therefore, the mastermind behind the plot against Yi Chun would definitely send his clansmen after learning about the Netherworld. And that was why Yi Chun was asking his 3 slave subordinates. To be more precise, Yi Chun did not want to wait any longer. He had to find a mastermind behind the scenes as soon as possible and kill him once and for all. The moment Yi Chun's voice fell, the 3 slaves who were at different locations hurriedly stopped what they were doing and bowed towards Yi Chun's location. Master, I have 128 clans that have contacted me. Master, I have 156 clans that have contacted me. Master, I have 118 clans that have contacted me. One of them wanted to capture me, but I killed him. Yi Chun, who was walking towards Lu Hong, narrowed his eyes as he heard the words of the 3 slaves belonging to the hidden forces. Then, he sent a voice transmission to Lu Hong. Send out the news. Have them gather at Yangzhou in 2 hours and open the Netherworld. Yes, Master. The 3 slaves who belonged to the hidden faction hurriedly bowed in Yi Chun's direction when they heard Yi Chun's order. A cold light flashed in Yi Chun's eyes when he heard the replies of his 3 slaves. The one who wants to capture my slaves should be the subordinate of the mastermind behind the scenes. Jump out for me, all of you. This time, I'm going to start a massacre. Chapter 1163. Thinking of this, Yi Chun snorted coldly and continued forward. Yi Chun definitely had to deal with those hidden forces with ulterior motives, as well as the daring mastermind behind the scenes. However, now was not the time, because the emperor of the Great Han Dynasty, Lu Hong, led all the officials and the people of Luoyang out of the city to welcome Yi Chun, and they even saw Yi Chun. If Yi Chun left at this time, it would be a slap to Lu Hong's face. It would be a loud slap to the face. At that time, even if the great eunuch Zhang Rang had the ability to reach the heavens, he would not be able to explain Yi Chun away. After that, Yi Chun would definitely be condemned by Lu Hong. Although Yi Chun was not afraid, it would affect Yi Chun's plan to plunder the last bit of the Great Han Empire's providence. Therefore, it was impossible for Yi Chun to leave and infuriate Lu Hong just because he really wanted to kill those hidden forces. In the real world, 835 miles south of Samsara City, a timid middle-aged man was carefully moving in the direction of Samsara City. At this moment, a black light flashed. Then, a huge beast appeared. It had a head like a cow, but its mouth was full of sharp teeth. Its body was like a tiger, but it was covered with black star-shaped scales. Its back was like a hedgehog, but its bone spikes were like long swords. It was sharp and cold. It appeared directly on the spot. Damn it! The timid middle-aged man frowned the moment he saw the black monster. Then, he waved his right hand, and a long green sword appeared in his right hand. Roar! After a deafening roar, the black monster suddenly appeared. Its slender but extremely sharp claws swiped at the wretched middle-aged man. Damn it, the crooked demon tribe. How dare you make trouble for me? Die! After the middle-aged man said coldly, he slashed at the black monster. Dang! The cyan longsword in the middle-aged man's right hand was instantly sent flying. The middle-aged man, who had thought that he could easily deal with the black monster, was shocked when he saw this. At this moment, the black monster's claws came slapping over violently. Bang! The wretched middle-aged man was slapped to the ground in an instant. At the same time, The smoke and dust that filled the sky suddenly flew up and exploded on the ground. Impossible! How can the Yao race have an existence that can resist a heaven-grade weapon? A furious roar of disbelief rose from the dust along with the sudden appearance of the golden light shield. The black monster thought that it had killed the wretched-looking middle-aged man with one claw, but when it heard this, it was slightly stunned. Then it slammed its claw down again. Boom! With a loud bang, the golden light barrier that had just expanded instantly shattered. Then countless pieces of flesh and blood shot out from the rolling dust on the ground. When the black monster saw this, it curled its lips in disdain and said, "You're not a monster. You're dreaming if you want to attack Master's Samsara City." If someone had accurate information about Samsara City, they could immediately make a deduction based on the black monster's words. This black monster was one of Yi Qin's mounts, the Black Emperor. Of course, this was just a hypothesis. The truth was that, up until now, no one except for Yi Qin's people knew that Yi Qin had a royal member of the Starry Sky Sword Dragon race who was born in the Purple Mansion realm and could grow into a sage-to-be or even a sage-to-be. Otherwise, these people who secretly went to Samsara City to use powerful tools to kill the flaming tiger Yilin would have used powerful tools on the Black Emperor without hesitation. What's going on today? Why are there so many bastards here? Aren't they afraid of death? The Black Emperor said with some confusion. He looked straight to the north, and then his body moved. He instantly turned into a black shadow and disappeared in a flash. In the game world, north of Luoyang City, Yi Qin led 100 Samsara Legion soldiers all the way to the front of Lu Hong's dragon carriage. He stopped and bowed to Lu Hong with tears of gratitude. Your humble servant pays his respects to your majesty. No matter how one looked at it, Yi Qin's words sounded overly agitated. Although Yi Qin deliberately showed this to Lu Hong and the other civil and military officials, no one could tell that it was fake. The reason why Yi Qin deliberately showed this was naturally to convey a message to everyone. That was, I am a loyal subject. Yi Qin's path of imperial providence was now about to be filled with dukes fighting for hegemony. Yi Qin did not want to fail because of these trivial matters. Seeing Yi Qin's indescribably touched expression, Lu Hong laughed out loud when he heard Yi Qin's words. Good. Honorable son-in-law, please rise. When Yi Qin heard this, he put on an expression of trying to stabilize his emotions. Then, he bowed to Lu Hong again and said, Your Majesty, it's already autumn. The winds are cold and the cold air is beginning to get worse. Your Majesty should not personally leave the city. If your Majesty falls ill because of this son-in-law will not be able to atone for his sins even if he dies 100 times. Honorable son-in-law, you have opened up new territory for us and the Great Han. Your contributions cannot go unnoticed. How can we not personally escort you back to the city? Lu Hong laughed even more heartily when he heard this. Then he solemnly said to Yi Qin, no matter how stupid Lu Hong was, he knew whether Yi Qin's contributions were great or not. Lu Hong also knew whether Yi Qin was loyal or not. Although Zhang Rang had mediated in this matter, Yi Qin had truly conquered so much territory. Thus, no matter how stupid Lu Hong was, he did not think that Yi Qin was a sycophantic official. But even so, Lu Hong still hoped to see Yi Qin act like a subject. And the result was that Lu Hong was very satisfied. Yi Qin not only treated him with respect, he was also very loyal. This was the attitude that a subject should have. When Yi Qin heard Lu Hong's words, he immediately bowed gratefully. Many thanks for your Majesty's benevolence. As soon as Yi Qin finished speaking, all the civil and military officials bowed to Yi Qin in unison. Paying respects to you, Lord Beach. Yi Qin was a king with a different surname. In the Great Han Empire, only Lu Hong could control Yi Qin. Everyone else had to bow to Yi Qin when they saw him, even the great clans. As for not bowing to Yi Qin because of his prestige, there was no such thing. Because in the Great Han Empire, there was not a single person more famous than Yi Qin. If there was someone to blame, It was Yi Chun who had conquered the entire world for the Great Han Empire. Not even Qin Shi Huang had been able to accomplish this feat. So who would dare to compare their prestige to Yi Chun? Yi Chun nodded at the greetings of the officials, then turned to Lu Hong and bowed. Your Majesty, the wind is cold. Return to the palace. My worthy son-in-law, come, let's go back together. Lu Hong nodded with a chuckle when he heard this. Yi Chun froze for a moment, and then he hurriedly bowed. Your Majesty, only Your Majesty can ride the dragon carriage. Even if this son-in-law has performed heaven-shaking feats, he cannot break the rules of etiquette. Your Majesty, please forgive this offense. Then we will permit you to ride into the city. Lu Hong's smile deepened. Yi Chun breathed a sigh of relief, and then bowed to Lu Hong. Many thanks, Your Majesty. As soon as Yi Chun finished speaking, Lu Hong, who was sitting in the dragon carriage, looked straight at Zhang Rang and said, Go, bring Zhan's Lu here. Chapter 1164. When Zhang Rang heard Lu Hong's words, he immediately smiled flatteringly and bowed. Yes, Your Majesty. After Zhang Rang finished speaking, he hurriedly turned around and walked to the back of the dragon carriage. Not long after, Zhang Rang walked over with a majestic, muscular, brown horse with a tuft of white hair on its forehead. Seeing Zhang Rang's warhorse, Yi Chun could not help but raise his eyebrows. According to historical records, Lu was the horse that saved Liu Bei's life. Unfortunately, Liu Bei was already killed by me, and this history has been destroyed, but then again, this Lu is indeed not bad. If I bring it to the reincarnation Immortal City and train it, it might really advance to a Pegasus. Just as Yi Chun thought of this, Zhang Rang, who was leading Lu over, came to Yi Chun's side and bowed flatteringly to Yi Chun. You have beaked, Your Excellency. Please get on the horse. Thank you, Zhang Changshi. When Yi Chun heard this, he smiled and said. When Zhang Rang heard this, the smile on his face deepened. Then he bowed again to Yi Chun and said, Your Excellency, Your Excellency, Your Excellency. To be able to lead you of Beak's horse is the blessing of 3 lifetimes. This servant is eager to lead you of Beak's horse every day. This servant can't wait to lead you of Beak's horse every day. Looking at the smile on Zhang Rang's old face, Yi Chun resisted the urge to slap him. Instead, he nodded with a hee, took the reins, and mounted the horse. When Zhang Rang saw this, he immediately walked to the side of the dragon carriage and bowed to Lu Hong. Your Majesty, shall we set off for the palace? Let's go. When Lu Hong heard this, he nodded without hesitation. Yes, Your Majesty. After Zhang Rang finished speaking, he turned to the eunuchs, imperial guards, and civil and military officials who had followed Lu Hong out of the palace. His Majesty has ordered us to return to the palace. As soon as Zhang Rang said that, a long horn sounded. Then, the huge group that was welcoming Yi Chun began to turn. After a while, they completed the turn and headed for Luoyang. When the guard of honor walked past the people who had come out of the city to welcome Yi Chun, the originally quiet people finally couldn't hold it in any longer. They began to discuss in low voices. You have Beach, Lord You have Beach. Lord You have Beach are so young. She'll quiet down. It's fine to peek at Lord You have Beach, but His Majesty is also here. Peeking at His Majesty is a crime of great disrespect. No, I only peeked at Lord You have Beach. I wouldn't dare to peek at His Majesty. I truly didn't expect You of Beach to be so handsome and so manly. I want to be You of Beach's maid. Little girl, forget it. There are plenty of people who want to be You of Beach's maid. You really don't seem to be on the list. Do you want to be Yi Yu of Gojoseon's servant? Does your son want to be Yi Yu of Gojoseon's soldier? Do your clansmen want to move to a territory where they can play? Don't tell me you don't want to. I dare say that I'm not the only one who has thought about it. About 80% of the people in the Great Han Dynasty have thought about it. However, it's useless to think about it. If you dare to leave your former residence without permission, you will be labeled as a refugee and will be wanted. At that time, if Lord You of Beach takes us in, we will be knowingly breaking the law. If you don't, We will be caught and become slaves. Do you understand? Uncle, how can I not understand what you're saying? Sigh, what a pity. The commoners were secretly discussing with each other. It was very lively. Yi Chun, who was riding on Lu, could not help but raise his eyebrows when he heard the quiet but lively discussion of the commoners. This is the benefit of fame. My current fame is unparalleled in the Great Han Empire. Once the rebellion of the vassals starts and the army of the reincarnation immortal city sweeps through the world, the common people will definitely settle down very quickly. At that time, it will save me a lot of trouble, and I won't have to spend time and effort to appease the commoners at the thought of this. Yi Chen could not help but smile. Along the way, the commoners knelt down and rose and saluted. Although they did not dare to look at Lu Hong like the people who saw Yi Chen first, they would still secretly look at Yi Chen, who was riding on Lu. The secret discussion continued, and Yi Chen's mood became more and more carefree. Yi Chen wanted to walk the path of the emperor's path of providence. In the end, he would ascend to the throne and become an emperor. In this process, the commoners were undoubtedly the foundation. If the foundation was not stable, Yi Chen would not be able to go far on the path of the emperor's path. Therefore, Yi Chen liked to see the reactions of the commoners. After all, this would be very helpful to the reincarnation empire that Yi Chen would establish soon. Of course, even if the commoners did not have a good impression of Yi Chen, it would not take too long to win their hearts over with the support of the powerful attributes of the reincarnation immortal city. However, relatively speaking, before Yi Chen established the empire, the better the impression the commoners had of Yi Chen, the better it would be for Yi Chen. Time passed slowly. The procession that welcomed Yi Chen finally returned to the imperial palace under the gazes of the Luoyang commoners. At the gate of the imperial palace, Lu Hong, who had just returned, suddenly thought of something. Then he looked at Zhang Rang and said, "Let father bring my good son-in-law to my dragon pool to bathe and change his clothes." Yi Chen had just returned from battle. Before he could bathe and change his clothes, he met Lu Hong. If it were someone else, Lu Hong would definitely punish him for being disrespectful, but Yi Chen was different. After all, Yi Chen was a great hero who had won the entire world for the Great Han Empire. Moreover, he was Lu Hong's good son-in-law, the most loyal minister of the Great Han Empire, and the mainstay of the Great Han Empire. In addition, Yi Chen had just returned from a battle, and Lu Hong had personally welcomed him. There was no time for Yi Chen to prepare at all. Therefore, Lu Hong would not punish Yi Chen because of this. Of course, even if he said that he would not punish him, he still had to bathe. In order to express his importance to Yi Chen and make this unparalleled general even more grateful and loyal, Lu Hong specially instructed Zhang Rang to bring Yi Chen to the dragon pool to bathe and change his clothes. As for where the dragon pool was, there was no doubt that it was the place where Lu Hong usually bathed and played with the concubines of the imperial harem. "Your Majesty, this..." The slightly stunned Zhang Rang came back to his senses and hurriedly bowed to Lu Hong. If it was any other place, it would be fine, but Lu Hong had mentioned the dragon pool. Even if Zhang Rang treated Yi Chen as one of his own, he did not dare to agree immediately. After all, that was the F*** pool that Lu Hong used. Moreover, it was the place where he bathed and played with the concubines of the imperial harem. If Yi Chen bathed there, it would be a reward and a F** trap. However, these words were said by Lu Hong. How was Zhang Rang supposed to reply? Yi Chen, who was riding on Lu, hurriedly bowed to Lu Hong in the dragon carriage and said, "Your Majesty, you can't." "Why not? If I say you can, then you can," Lu Hong said with a smile after hearing Yi Chen's words. When Yi Chen heard this, an extremely disgusting thought suddenly appeared in his mind. F** hell, I don't care about your stupid pool. It was no wonder that Yi Chen reacted this way. After all, the dragon pool was the place where Lu Hong bathed and played with the concubines. Others might think that the water in the pool was holy water, but Yi Chen did not like it. "Your Majesty, this humble subject is afraid of the difference in status." As soon as Yi Chen's righteous words fell, Lu Hong smiled again and said, "You have beached You are my son-in-law and half my son. You also have my approval. If anyone dares to speak ill of you, I will punish them." When Yi Chen heard Lu Hong's words, he immediately cursed Lu Hong in his heart. However, he could only think about it and could not say it out loud. "But, Your Majesty," before Yi Chen could finish speaking, he was interrupted by Lu Hong. "My good son-in-law, you and I are father and son. There's no need to stand on ceremony. If I say you can go, then you can go. If anyone dares to say no, I will kill their entire family." Chapter 1165. Yes, Your Majesty. Yi Chen glanced at Lu Hong gratefully before turning to Lu Hong and bowing respectfully. When Lu Hong saw this, the smile on his face became even wider. "That's good. You're my half-son, so there's no need to be so formal." The moment Lu Hong's words fell, the faces of the civil and military officials following behind the dragon carriage, which were already uneasy, became even more uneasy. They wanted to say that Lu Hong's actions were extremely inappropriate, but they didn't dare, because no matter how one looked at it, Lu Hong's expression was determined. They wanted to persuade Yi Chen to continue rejecting Yi Chen, but they couldn't do so. Yi Chen's reputation in the Great Han Empire was at its zenith, and there were many commoners watching from afar. If the civil and military officials dared to open their mouths and persuade Yi Chen to continue to reject Lu Hong, then the common people would very likely take this as jealousy from the civil and military officials. After that, the spittle of the people would drown the civil and military officials. After all, even Emperor Lu Hong had agreed to let Yi Chen use the dragon pool to bathe and change, but the officials were obstructing him. If this wasn't jealousy, then what was? It would be strange if the commoners didn't curse these officials when they confirmed this truth. After all, Yi Chen's status and reputation in the hearts of the commoners were far above those of the old noble clans, and even Emperor Lu Hong couldn't compare to Yi Chen. Thus, even if the officials knew that Lu Hong had allowed Yi Chen to bathe and change in the dragon pool, they could only hold it in. They couldn't say it, and they didn't dare to say it. Because of this, the expressions of the civil and military officials changed dramatically. Among them, there were also those officials who had other thoughts in their hearts. In their minds, they all believed that even if Yi Chen, the great general of swift cavalry of the Great Han Empire and the governor of Yuzhou, and even if Yu of Beach didn't show any fear from Lu Hong, when he returned to the Great Han and the commoners lined the streets to welcome him, Lu Hong would still be wary and suspicious of him. After that, Yi Chen would definitely be bullied by Lu Hong. Then, they would be able to fan the flames and drag Yi Chen down from the sky to the ground. Then, they would ruthlessly step on him to prevent Yi Chen from affecting their other thoughts. These were the thoughts of these officials. Even though they knew that Yi Chen was very powerful, they were no exception. Because in their minds, those countries that Yi Chen had destroyed were all barbarians and were definitely weak. Even if they were the ones doing it, they could also do the same. After all, Yi Chen had led the Great Han Empire security forces, and they also had the Great Han Empire security forces, and they were all elite soldiers. Of course, they couldn't say this out loud, but the result was completely out of their expectations. Damn, not only did Lu Hong not care about this, he even thought highly of Yi Chen, even promising Yi Chen that he wouldn't follow the rules of etiquette. What did this mean? Very simple. Lu Hong didn't have the slightest grudge against Yi Chen. This was beyond the expectations of these officials who had ulterior motives. It would be strange if their expressions were not interesting. Of course, although their expressions were interesting, no one who could become a high-ranking official was stupid, so no one would stir up trouble at this juncture. The moment Lu Hong finished speaking, Yi Chen once again bowed gratefully to Lu Hong. When Lu Hong saw this, he chuckled and nodded, then looked directly at Zhang Rang and said, "Father, send Father to bathing dragon bath. Have Father bring King Yu to the dragon pool to bathe and change. Also, find 10 beautiful palace maids to serve King Yu wholeheartedly. Yes, Your Majesty." When Zhang Rang heard this, he smiled flatteringly, then bowed to Lu Hong. When he finished speaking, he looked at Yi Chun and then bowed to Yi Chun with a smile. Lord, you have beach. Please follow this servant. When Yi Chun heard this, he nodded and then followed Zhang Rang to the Imperial Palace. Imperial Palace, Imperial Harem, Dragon Bath. Lord, you have beach. Please wait a moment. The palace maids will be here soon. Zhang Rang, who had brought Yi Chun to the dragon bath that Lu Hong and the concubines used to bathe, stopped and then bowed to Yi Chun obsequiously. When Yi Chun heard this, he smiled and said, "There's no need to rush. There's no hurry." When Yi Chun finished speaking, he waved his right hand, and a cross with storage ability instantly appeared in his hand. After glancing at the cross, Yi Chun immediately handed it to Zhang Rang. This was the first time Zhang Rang saw a cross as a storage item. He was stunned for a moment before he asked with some doubt. Then he asked curiously, "Lord, you have beach." This is when Yi Chun heard Zhang Rang's question, he smiled and said, "This is a storage equipment. It has the same function as storage rings and storage pouches." Yi Chun was well aware of the abilities of this great eunuch, Zhang Rang, before Lu Hong's death. He also knew that Zhang Rang was a key factor in the Dongjua Rebellion. In order to prevent any unexpected changes from occurring in the Dongjua Rebellion, which would affect his plan to obtain the fortune of heaven and earth of the Great Han Empire, Yi Chun would naturally give Zhang Rang some benefits like before, so that Zhang Rang would continue to misunderstand this matter. That was, Yi Chun was a staunch ally of his eunuchs. This way, Zhang Rang and all the other eunuchs would continue to advise Yi Chun and resolve all the problems that would be detrimental to Yi Chun. Once news of Yi Chun's successive wars of annihilation reached the Great Han, the officials with ulterior motives prepared to give Yi Chun a hard time, so Zhang Rang decided to use a big move to resolve this problem for Yi Chun. Of course, all of this would come to an end once Lu Hong died. After all, Yi Chun did not want to replace Dongjua in the capital after Lu Hong's death and become another Dongjua. As soon as Yi Chun finished speaking, Zhang Rang's eyes suddenly lit up. He then bowed in ecstasy and said, "This servant thanks Lord you of beach for your reward." Yi Chun's status, prestige, and authority were so high that even Zhang Rang would have to think twice before making an enemy out of him. Such a Yi Chun had long since made Zhang Rang worried. To be more precise, Zhang Rang was worried that Yi Chun, the king of Yuzhou of the Great Han Empire, would not treat him and the eunuchs the same as before. If Yi Chun, for the sake of his reputation or something else, no longer wanted to be close to the eunuchs, then Zhang Rang would have no good way to deal with it. After all, Yi Chun was no ordinary official. Not only did he have prestige, status, and military authority, most importantly, this Prince of Han Yi Chun was too damn good at fighting. In such a short time, he had destroyed so many countries and conquered the entire world for the Great Han Empire. If Yi Chun did not care about the eunuchs, then Zhang Rang could make things difficult for Yi Chun. But who would dare to try to deal with Yi Chun's fury? Even if all the nobles of the Great Han Empire worked together, the result would still be the same. This was where Zhang Rang's perception differed from that of those officials who had other thoughts and organizations in their hands. Those officials did not think that Yi Chun was that awesome or that abnormal. But Zhang Rang, who often interacted with Yi Chun, did not think so. It was also for this reason that Zhang Rang was ecstatic when he realized that Yi Chun still treated him the same way as before. Seeing Zhang Rang's surprised expression, Yi Chun smiled faintly and said, "Don't worry, Zhang Changshu, there's no need to treat me like an outsider." When Zhang Rang heard this, the excitement in his eyes intensified. "You have beach is right. However, this servant still has to thank you of beach for your reward. Otherwise, this servant would not dare to accept it." When Yi Chun heard Zhang Rang's words, he could not help but smile and say, "All right, let's stop here. Otherwise, this prince will think that Zhang Changshu is treating this prince as an outsider. This servant was wrong, Lord you of beach. This servant will not say anymore. This servant will go and arrange for the palace maids to help you of beach bathe and change your clothes." When Zhang Rang heard this, the smile on his face bloomed like a flower. He then bowed to Yi Chun with incomparable flattery. When Yi Chun heard this, he chuckled and nodded. When Zhang Rang saw this, he bowed again and left with a face full of excitement. Looking in the direction that Zhang Rang left, Yi Chun's expression immediately became cold again. Damn it, for the sake of this old man's grand plan, this show still has to continue. However, it won't be long before the aura of death on that old fellow Lu Hong's body continues to intensify. Come to think of it, he will die in less than a month at that time. The course of history will automatically skip to the Dongzhuo Rebellion. When he thought of this, the corners of Yi Chun's mouth couldn't help but curl up. At this moment, light footsteps suddenly sounded. Didn't they say that there were 10 palace maids? Why was there only one? After pondering in confusion, Yi Chun turned around and frowned. Empress He, damn it, what is this woman trying to do here? Is she plotting against me or something else? Chapter 1166. Just as Yi Chun was thinking of this, Empress He, who was wearing a thin silk dress that revealed her private parts, came in front of Yi Chun. Looking at Empress He's faintly discernible and seductive appearance, Yi Chun's gaze gradually turned cold. This was the Dragon Pond, the place where Lu Hong and his concubines bathed and played. It was reasonable for Empress He to come here. But Empress He was the mother of the country, the empress of the Han dynasty. It was impossible for her to dress like this to come to the Dragon Pond. Otherwise, Empress He's actions would definitely be recorded by the historians after that. Empress He would definitely be severely punished by Lu Hong. It was even possible that she would be stripped of her empress position by Lu Hong. In that case, this woman didn't come here by chance. She wanted to continue scheming against me. Previously, Empress He, or rather, Empress He's biological sister, Helian, in order to prevent Yi Chun from searching for the missing second prince Lu Hong, and also to remove the backlash from the special technique that confused Lu Hong and made him mistakenly think that they were in the same room. She had specially looked for Yi Chun and wanted to give her virginity to Yi Chun. At that time, not only did Yi Chun directly reject her, he even showed Helian his superhuman ability. He froze the entire pond with a thought and scared Helian. In the end, Helian gave up on scheming against Yi Chun. Of course, this wasn't important. What was important was that Helian, who Yi Chun originally thought wouldn't dare to continue scheming against him, started scheming against him again. It was also because of this that Yi Chun's gaze turned cold. It was no wonder that Yi Chun thought this way. One had to know that if Helian came here dressed like this, it would be fine if no one saw her. If someone saw her, Yi Chun wouldn't be able to do anything even if he had 10,000 reasons. As for the reason, it was very simple. Yi Chun had seen Empress He's body. This was a crime of disrespect. After that, Lu Hong would definitely be angry when he found out. Then, he would remove Yi Chun's official position and title without hesitation. In the end, he would label Yi Chun as a traitor. This way, even if Yi Chun could sweep the world and unify the Han dynasty, he wouldn't be able to obtain all of the great Han Empire's providence. This was the system's restriction. No matter how powerful Yi Chun was, he couldn't solve this problem. Just as Yi Chun thought Yi Chun, Empress Helian solemnly bowed and said, "This lowly concubine, Helian, your highness, pays respects to Lord Yu of Bei." When Yi Chun heard Empress He's humble and respectful words, he coldly glanced at Helian and said, "That's right. Helian, you're testing this king's patience. Your highness, this lowly concubine was forced to do this. Please forgive me, your highness." After hearing Yi Chun's cold words, Helian suddenly shivered and hurriedly bowed to Yi Chun. When Yi Chun heard this, he narrowed his eyes and said, "This king warned you before not to test this king's patience. If this king wants you to die, even if you have the protection of the gods, you won't be able to escape death. Your highness, the backlash from this lowly concubine's special technique is getting stronger and stronger. This lowly concubine doesn't want to give up her virginity to Lu Hong, nor does she want to become a promiscuous woman. Please, your highness, take pity on this lowly concubine. When He Lien heard this, she knelt on the ground with a bang. Then, she began to kowtow to Yi Chun in an incomparably miserable manner. When Yi Chun heard this, his face immediately darkened. He Lien's appearance was not bad. Furthermore, due to the fact that she cultivated a special technique, she had always maintained her virginity. However, the problem was that Yi Chun was not so desperate that he would even do He Jin's younger sister, the slave Lu Xie's aunt. Of course, this wasn't the main point. The main point was that He Lien's thoughts weren't pure. If he slept with her, or took her as his mistress, he would only be looking for trouble. To put it simply, if Yi Chun took He Lien as his mistress, then Yi Chun's harem wouldn't have any peace. This lowly concubine thought that she could force this old man to submit by dressing like this at this juncture. She was thinking too much. Thinking of this, Yi Chun waved his right hand, and a cross-like item instantly appeared in his right hand. Glancing at the cross in his right hand, Yi Chun raised his left hand and made a grabbing motion in the air. In the next second, a drop of bright red blood flew out from He Lien's body and headed straight for the cross in Yi Chun's right hand. The moment the blood on He Lien's body touched the cross, the originally silvery white cross suddenly glowed with a bloody light and returned to its original state. At the same time, He Lien, who was still kneeling on the ground, froze. Then, her eyes suddenly lost their luster. Yi Chun curled his lips in disdain as he glanced at He Lien, who had completely sunk into a daze. If it weren't for the chaos caused by Dong Zhuo and the need for He Lien, this old man would have crushed this lowly concubine. Speaking of which, although the Luo sex puppet cross wasn't very powerful, it was more than enough to deal with He Lien. Just as Yi Chun thought of this, the crisp sound of footsteps was heard from afar. Upon hearing this, Yi Chun waved his right hand and was about to put He Lien into his pocket dimension. At this moment, the system's notification suddenly rang out. Ding! Empress, he is a special character and cannot be put into a special space. Ding! Empress, he is a special character and is immune to players' control. As soon as the system's notification ended, Yi Chun's face darkened. Mother of asterisk her, how could this be? F asterisk CK. He Lien was related to the chaos caused by Dong Zhuo, so Yi Chun couldn't kill her casually. He could only scare her. Otherwise, Yi Chun would have killed her long ago and wouldn't have let her live until now. Of course, this wasn't important. The important thing was that Yi Chun thought that he could easily control and get rid of He Lien. Not only was she unable to be put into the pocket dimension, but she was also immune to players' control. What did this mean? It was very simple. Not only was He Lien not controlled, but Yi Chun was also in trouble. To be more precise, as long as Yi Chun didn't intend to kill He Lien would definitely be discovered by the palace maids who were about to arrive. After that, the palace maid would find out that Yi Chun was in the dragon pond with He Lien, who was almost naked, and then spread the news. Control the palace maids? Under normal circumstances, Yi Chun would naturally be able to prevent the news from spreading. But the problem was that before he could control the palace maids, Yi Chun would become a red fugitive of the Great Han Empire. At first glance, this result was a little confusing. After all, Yi Chun didn't rebel. How did he become a red fugitive? In fact, this wasn't complicated. Because Yi Chun was a player, as long as a player acted against Lu Hong, he would become an enemy of the Great Han Empire. At this moment, as long as the palace maids found out that Yi Chun was in the dragon pond with Empress He, then Yi Chun, the strongest player, would become an enemy of the Great Han Empire. He would no longer be a citizen of the Great Han Empire. After that, all of Yi Chun's official positions, titles, territories, and military power would all be taken away by Lu Hong. In this way, although Yi Chun could still continue on his path to becoming an emperor, the result would be very different from what Yi Chun had planned. It was also because of this reason that Yi Chun was so angry that he almost scolded the system for being shameless. Yi Chun didn't know that Empress He had such a rule to protect her. Damn it! After cursing in his heart, Yi Chun grabbed He Lien's neck with his right hand and dragged her into the dragon pond. Before He Lien could cry out in surprise, Yi Chun pushed He Lien into the water. At this moment, 10 palace maids arrived at the dragon pond. Seeing that Yi Chan didn't take off his clothes and went straight into the dragon pond, the 10 beautiful palace maids were all stunned. Yi Chan looked at the 10 palace maids and said, "You can leave now. All of you can leave. This king will." Yi Chen's face darkened as he said this. He grabbed Empress He Lian's right hand and squeezed it lightly. Empress He fainted instantly. Chapter 1167. It was no wonder that Yi Chan was so ruthless. Who asked He Lian to seize the opportunity in front of her? She actually wanted to do something to Yi Chan in the water that only men and women would do when they were sleeping. From a man's point of view, Yi Chan would not be at a disadvantage and would even enjoy it. However, this did not mean that Yi Chan would allow He Lian to do as she pleased. Yi Chan did not lack women. Furthermore, Yi Chen's women were the best of the best. Yi Chan would not even spare He Lian a glance. Furthermore, He Lian's nature was too bad. She was not suitable for the backyard. The instant Yi Chan pinched He Lian unconscious, the 10 palace maids' bodies stiffened. Then, their eyes turned incomparably green. Upon seeing this, Yi Chen's eyes narrowed. Poison humans. Goddamn it, these hidden factions had even infiltrated the imperial palace. Poison humans were puppets that were controlled by secret technique after being fed poison. The natives of the novice district of the Three Kingdoms did not have the ability to create such existences. Only players could create poison humans. For example, the self-destructing eunuch that Yi Chan encountered in the Luoyang and was a poison human created by Li Mubai, who had used a secret technique to take over Lu Xie's body. And now, the eyes of the 10 palace maids who came to serve Yi Chan had suddenly turned green. This was a sign that the poison humans were about to self-destruct. It was also because of this reason that Yi Chan came to the conclusion that the imperial palace of the Great Han Dynasty had been infiltrated by hidden factions. Otherwise, it was impossible for such a situation to occur. These hidden forces are going to turn the beginner's area upside down and completely disrupt my plan. Just as Yi Chan thought of this, the 10 palace maids who came to serve Yi Chan instantly swelled up and then exploded with a bang. At this moment, the sky was filled with emerald green liquid that splashed out in all directions. At the same time, a fishy smell spread throughout the dragon pool. These bastards from the hidden forces must all die today. Yi Chan was filled with killing intent. He waved his left hand, and a sea of fire instantly appeared. Then, the green venom that splattered in all directions was instantly ignited and burned into nothingness. In the next second, Yi Chan stood up and tossed Empress He, who had fainted from Yi Chan's grip, into the space that suddenly distorted and disappeared. Empress He was naturally thrown back to her palace by Yi Chan. Before, Yi Chan didn't do this because there were palace maids cleaning her room. If Yi Chan directly threw Empress He back, it would definitely cause unnecessary trouble. Now that the palace maids had finished cleaning and left, Yi Chan naturally did not have to worry. Yi Chan glanced at the empty dragon pool. With a thought, his spiritual sense instantly locked onto the entire palace. A few seconds later, Yi Chan's face sank. Damn it, there were more than 300 poison men in the palace. If the poison men did not self-destruct, they would look no different from ordinary people. However, this was with the naked eye. If one used spiritual sense to investigate, they would easily find out where the problem was. To be more precise, as long as they were poison men, there would definitely be a poison pill sealed in their dantian with a secret technique. At this moment, there were a total of 312 palace maids and eunuchs who possessed the poison pill in the palace. If they succeeded in self-destructing, Yi Chan would still be fine, but Lu Hong and all the court officials would be dead. In this way, the history of the Great Han Empire would be interrupted, and the 30% or so of the fortune of heaven and earth that Lu Hong possessed would also disappear from the world. At that time, Yi Chan wanted to unify the world to gather the 30% of the fortune of heaven and earth that had disappeared. It was basically wishful thinking. If there was anything to blame, blame it on the fact that the fortune of heaven and earth in this part of the world had already been integrated by Qin Shi Huang once. If this was a land without a master, without the birth of an empire, no matter how much trouble the players caused, it would be useless. As long as Yi Chen swept across the world, he would be able to obtain all the fortune of heaven and earth. However, this was just a hypothesis. The real situation was that this place was not a land without a master. The Great Han Empire did exist. Therefore, Yi Chen could not obtain all the fortune of heaven and earth of the Great Han Empire by directly mobilizing his troops. Of course, if Yi Chen did not belong to the Great Han Empire, then Yi Chen would not have this restriction when he mobilized his troops against the Great Han Empire. Then, Yi Chen would be able to directly seize all the fortune of heaven and earth of the Great Han Empire. However, Yi Chen was a citizen of the Great Han Empire. If he were to directly seize it, a portion of the fortune of heaven and earth would disappear from the world on its own and would not belong to Yi Chen. If there were no such restrictions, Yi Chen would have already made his move. Why would he wait until now? If he wanted to obtain all of the fortune of heaven and earth of the Great Han Empire, he would have to wait until the Great Han Empire ran out of fortune and fell into chaos. Only when the fortune of heaven and earth of the Great Han Empire would he be able to mobilize his troops. Only at that time would Yi Chen be able to take all of the fortune of heaven and earth of the Great Han Empire for his own use. Of course, this was not important. What was important was that Yi Chen could not allow the hidden faction that had calculated that Yi Chen would walk the path of Imperial Path Fate to continue to destroy it. Otherwise, the history of the Great Han Empire would be completely messed up, and the fortune of heaven and earth of the Great Han Empire on Luhong would also disappear from the world. That way, the plan that Yi Chen had formulated from the very beginning would be destroyed. Yi Chen did not want to see such a thing happen. With a thought, Yi Chen caused the space in front of him to distort. Glancing at the distorted space, Yi Chen raised his right hand and tapped with his finger. Bzz, dense buzzing sounds instantly rang out. Then, 312 balls of pure, white grand sun, primordial fire, appeared in an instant and flew straight into the distorted space. A second later, the 312 palace maids and eunuchs in various parts of the imperial palace who seemed normal but were actually poison people were ignited by the solar true flame that had suddenly flown out of the distorted space and turned into nothingness. This abnormal phenomenon instantly attracted the attention of the surrounding palace maids and eunuchs. After a momentary daze, they couldn't help but scream, "Ah, this what's going on? The immortal is angry. This is heavenly punishment. It must be heavenly punishment. Oh, heavens, this servant has never done anything bad. Please don't punish me." With his spiritual sense, Yi Chen glanced at the terrified palace maids and eunuchs. With a wave of his right hand, a set of clothes that seemed to be made of silk but were actually heaven-grade equipment appeared, and Yi Chen took them off. Yi Chen didn't need to take a bath, because Yi Chen was at the tribulation stage. No dust could touch Yi Chen's body, so how could it be dirty? Of course, taking a bath with Zhao Yu, Diao Chan, and Kaiyan was a different matter. But this was not important. What was important was that he still had to change his clothes. Otherwise, how could he explain to Lu Hong and the other officials that he had taken a bath? After changing his clothes, Yi Chen directly left the dragon pool. Then, he found a young eunuch and had him bring him to the hall where the morning assembly was held. That was where Lu Hong had held a welcoming banquet for Yi Chen. Now that Yi Chen, the main character, had finished his bath, he naturally had to go there. As for the bizarre disappearance of the 10 palace maids who had served him in his bath and the chaos caused by the burning of the 312 poisoned men in the imperial palace, Yi Chen didn't care, nor did he intend to explain anything. After all, no one had seen Yi Chen strike. If he explained, it would be hard to explain. Yi Chen quickly arrived at the main hall. The moment he entered, Lu Hong, who had just taken the main seat, immediately called out to Yi Chen, "Worthy son-in-law, come and take a seat on our left." The moment Lu Hong spoke, the gazes of all the civil and military officials turned to Yi Chen, who had just entered. When Yi Chen saw this, he turned to the table to Lu Hong's left. After a brief pause, he bowed to Lu Hong. "Your Majesty, this lowly subject is a general and should sit on the general's seat." When Lu Hong heard Yi Chen's words, he laughed and said, "Worthy son-in-law, there is no need to pay attention to these things. Today we are holding a welcoming banquet for you, so you should sit wherever you're told to sit. Besides, you are the cornerstone of my great Han, our right-hand man. There is nothing wrong with sitting on our left." When Yi Chen heard this, he nodded gratefully and then bowed to Lu Hong. This lowly subject obeys the decree. Although the dragon throne was not to Lu Hong's left, as long as Yi Chen sat there, he would be on the same level as Lu Hong. If Yi Chen did not say anything and just sat there, he would inevitably be criticized. Otherwise, Yi Chen would not have said this. The moment Yi Chen's words fell, the civil and military officials all revealed envious gazes. However, no one said anything. Seeing the reactions of the officials, Yi Chen raised an eyebrow and walked to the table to Lu Hong's left. When he passed by General He Jin, who was sitting at the head of the row of generals, Yi Chen glanced at He Jin, who was trying to avoid eye contact. Then, he went up the stairs and sat down at the table beside Lu Hong. The moment Yi Chen sat down, groups of palace maids carrying boxes of food walked over and placed the food in the boxes on the tables in front of Lu Hong, Yi Chen, and the officials. Once all the food and wine had been placed on the table, Lu Hong raised his cup and called out, "With this first toast, we will begin. For this first cup, let's toast to the Ghost King. Without the Ghost King, how could our great Han dynasty expand to the entire world? To you of Beach." The officials hurriedly raised their cups and loudly bowed to Yi Chen. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.